I think you have to still celebrate the small wins, because that was actually like my goal was $1 million, right? I wanted to make $1 million before I was 25. We did it in the first year of movement. I think I was 22, right? And then I wanted to do, $7 million, and then I wanted to do, 30, and then now I want to do 100. Like, you're always going to want bigger goals. Like, so my point is like that's relative to where you are today. Today, my goal is very big.
Yeah.
Where 5 years ago, like I wanted to do $1 million.
Yeah.
So you have to celebrate those wins, and you have to balance, because we're human beings and ambitious people always want more growth.
Purpose in the Youth. Purpose in the Youth podcast. Welcome back to the Purpose in the Youth podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Purpose in the Youth podcast with your favorite bearded man, the one, the only, Bobbbaaaay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Purpose in the Youth podcast with your favorite bearded man, the one, the only, Bobbbaaaay, the e-commerce guy, the co-founder of Movement, Kassan. How you doing, brother?
Good, dude. Thanks for having me.
Bro, it's a pleasure to have you, man.
Hyped up intro. I love that.
High energy. I was going to say to you when I got the iced coffee earlier, I wanted to be like, man, you don't even know the energy I'm about to come in with it. You're going to feel like you just had a shot of espresso. Yes. So I will pull you up. I will make sure you're ready to talk.
Bring me with you.
I will carry you along for the ride.
Love it.
Man, this is one of those podcasts as I was saying when I greeted you outside, like, we booked this out, I think 3 months ago. Obviously, for e-commerce, there's a lot going on with the holidays, and but booking this, I was like, man, December 7th, I can't wait. And I knew that it was going to be like a couple days before my birthday for my 25th. And I was like, honestly, that's probably one of the best podcasts that I could ask for as like an early birthday present. So I am beyond excited to have you here today,
dude.
man.
It means a lot. Appreciate that.
It's really awesome to have you here today. Before we get into like your childhood and stuff, you're looking at a little over 5 years of movement right now. The big deal with Movado, over $100 million for the acquired. We'll get into that later. What do you think has changed the most about you within this 5+ years?
Me personally?
You personally.
That's a good question, man. I think for me, I've seen a lot more than I think I ever could have imagined, and I think I just have different perspectives on things. I don't know. That's a really good question. Like, what has changed about me specifically?
Yeah.
I think I just realized that it's all like the issues in life are all relative to where you are. Like the things I used to complain about.
Yeah.
Like I used to complain, like, I wanted to have $1 million business, right? And then we got to $1 million business, and then I stressed about not doing, we wanted to get to 7 million, and then we went to 30, and like no matter where you are, it's all relative, and you can't control it. So it's like, when I know I would be yelling at myself for complaining about what I'm stressed about today, but it's just perspective and like relative to where you are in your life. So I don't know. I think I've realized that. I think I've realized the importance of like work-life balance. So just like the personal side of it, we talked a little bit about it before the show and the camera started rolling, but I think just realizing how important taking care of yourself is. I've definitely had times where I've burnt out, and so just making sure that you're in a place where there's longevity and you can actually balance, work and your personal life, and, understanding, the importance of relationships and mental health and everything else.
Did you find the burnout years were kind of in the earlier start of movement, or was that just when you were a little bit young?
It's funny because like, even though, yes, like the first, so I like, was very much, one track mind, like, go, do or die, neglect everything else in my life. I need to make movement happen, right? For the first 2 years, that was my, idea. And I don't know that was wrong, because I'm where I am today, but you almost have to have that like do or die mentality. So, but I had that, and I neglected something like, some, signals that were kind of, like I was about to burn out, or like I wasn't, thinking straight, or wasn't taking care of my body, my mind. And then I burnt out. I have bad anxiety, so like when I say burnt out, like I basically like developed an anxiety disorder, and so I'd go into this funk where like I couldn't even leave my house. Like that's how bad I got, and kind of came out of it, started seeking help, like, medication, whatever it was, and got out of it, and then like really beat it, and like, and understood the importance of balance. Fast forward, like, you still get back into the cycle. It's easy to like get back into the cycle as more complexity happens, more stress in your life. Like the issues we have right now, our main issues are just like work focus. We're single dudes, like we're not married, we don't have kids, like it's we live in California. Like there's a lot of like good things that we have going on. As you get older, like the things that you can be stressed about kind of multiplying it. So I don't know, I think it's just being like mindful and aware of where you are in your life. And I think so anyways, to wrap that all up, like I've just been realizing that things are relative to where you are today. And
it's super important what you just said too, because I feel like I'm sitting across from the version of myself that I'm going to be in a couple of years. Like I feel like you have to go through sometimes those couple of years of like head down, just like going all in to build something great. Like movement is something great, and it's not just about how much money you guys make or all the big influences you make, but like the impact that you're actually having on your customers, on the team that you guys have built. And I feel like that's the hardest part, is we kind of have to punt a couple years of just like going all in, making things happen, in order to get to the point now where it's like, okay, I can actually go out and have fun with my friends because I've built something great, and it's only going to continue to keep growing.
I think you have to still celebrate the small wins, because that was actually like my goal was $1 million, right? I wanted to make $1 million before I was 25. We did it in the first year of movement. I think I was 22, right? And then I wanted to do, $7 million, and then I wanted to do, 30, and then now I want to do 100. Like, you're always going to want bigger goals. Like, so my point is like that's relative to where you are today. Today, my goal is very big.
Yeah.
Where 5 years ago, like I wanted to do $1 million.
Yeah.
So you have to celebrate those wins, and you have to balance, because we're human beings and ambitious people always want more growth.
Yeah.
So you just need to learn to celebrate, appreciate it. And it's not just like going out and having a drink. It's like truly, taking a day or taking a vacation, or like it could be a 3-day. That was one thing, like vacations where you unplug. Everyone, you need to figure out how to unplug, because that's my biggest thing. I live across the street from my office right now.
Wow.
I can see I can literally see
you can see your desk?
Yeah, not my desk exactly, but I can see the parking lot. I can see windows. The only thing blocking my view were some trees, and they literally just cut them all down. So now I have the perfect view to my.
You're texting people. You're not in the office yet.
Pretty much.
I
see Blake rolling late, and I text him and I yell at him. No, I'm just kidding. But it's like, and so there's that piece, and I did it because I could be walking distance away from work.
Yeah.
And it's helped. Being close to the office. It's just been like my life simple. I'm in this cycle, gym. Boom, office. Like go back home. Like I'm in this but like. Someone asked me the other day, basically, and I get this asked all the time. It's like, "What's your hobbies, Jake?" And I stop and I just kind of like think about it. I'm like, I don't have a good answer to that. I'm working on it. Like I've been working on it.
Yeah.
And the sale of movement has kind of like helped validate everything that happened, because I can kind of like
pump the brakes a little bit.
Pump the brakes a little bit. But with that said, like that's not a good answer, right? Like because it could have been another 5 years for me. Like we didn't go out to sell the company, right? Like this just happened at the certain specific time.
Yeah.
In fact, we were like, I'm still working at Movement. I'll still be there for a long time. And we still, even when we were going out to raise money. So Movado buying us wasn't even in the cards really. It was like, we were going to go raise money and grow this company for years to come. So anyways, point being is like, I think you just need to like think about, you need to take care of your personal life just as much as, your business life. And there are sacrifices that you're going to make on the personal side. Like we all are willing to do that because we want to be successful and live the life that we want to live. And you want to put in the work now so that when we're in our 40s that we have the life that we want, or in your 30s. So I get that. But so I don't know. It's just a balance. You got to think about it. Like I'm working on Hobbies now. I'm trying to figure out, what do I live for outside of work? Like if you ask yourself that question, sometimes it's hard to answer it.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, I go to the gym, but do you live for going to the gym?
No.
Like, you know, and it's like a lot of people live for like, you know, they have a relationship or, you know, a wife or, you know, family. It's like, so it's like putting your, but you can't just go look for a relationship. You have to like put yourself in a good place. You have to be the person that someone wants, right? You need to be the person that you want to be, and you'll find the person that you want. And then also just with like, you know, whether it's, you know, certain fitness activities or it's like picking up hobbies. Like I've always like neglected hobbies because I'm like, I don't know how to surf. I don't know how to do, you know, box. I don't know how to, and like now I'm starting to like, I started like doing some like, boxing classes, and I'm like, I found this passion for it. I'm like, wow, this is really fun. Good workout. Still like lifting weights and all that, but that wasn't, I lost like the lust there.
Yeah.
So I'm dedicated to learn how to surf. I hate cold water, which I'm a little bitch about that, but it's like, that is like, I'm just like, why not? Like,
you get a suit, get one of those wetsuits.
I'm going to get a suit.
Get
like
a suit.
I have like Robbie in our office used to like be a, you know, whatever, surf like
instructor or something.
Yeah. I'm like, all right, let's go. Like when the weather gets a little better, we're gonna go surf and like figure it out, right?
Yeah.
Like if nothing else, just to sit in the ocean, like how
peaceful,
like
man.
Therapeutic is that?
I know.
And for that to just be something that I do, I've never hiked in Los Angeles yet. I'm an idiot. Like there's like.
You haven't done the whole running?
I haven't done running. I'm embarrassed to say it.
I haven't done it either, though. I'm gonna be honest with you.
But it's like, dude, like we have to do that.
Yeah,
we have to do that. It's just, you know, like outdoor stuff, hobbies, activities. So, and we're talking about a bunch of stuff outside of just business work.
I know.
But like these are topics that I never used to like think or talk about, right? Like it would be like go home after a long day and just. I would decompress by just like watching a Netflix show or something, right?
Yeah.
And when I started, it used to be no TV, podcasts at all times, listening to audiobooks. Wow. Like that was my mindset when I first started. It was like if every time I'm in a car, I can listen to either an audiobook. Actually, if I can listen to an audiobook on my way to work, I drove 15 minutes to work, 15 minutes back. I could crush 2 audiobooks a month.
Wow.
And I was crushing 2 audiobooks a month.
Wow.
And I was like...
Your time management was like
so,
to a T.
And that was like kind of my mentality. And I think it was good at the time. I learned a lot. But I neglected other areas of my life. And I was just... my brain was always on for work. And I'm like, some people can do it. And I'm not, and some people know like their threshold. I've realized now that like if I need to listen to music sometimes because I need to just like drive and like think.
Yeah.
Not try and like shove more information down my brain. And when I go to the gym, like I was even listening to audiobooks when I was in the gym.
Yeah.
And Blake's good at this. Like Blake he's more like diligent. And he's also in like a different place in his life as well. But like, or in his career at least, like, but he's very disciplined on this stuff, and like, so you need to know where you're, like, what your therapeutic like thing is.
You got to figure out your balance of like what's gonna pull your brain away from the work,
exactly.
but then also enjoy
life.
Like
Blake and a lot of people don't watch TV. They don't even like watching TV.
I'm with you. I'm with them.
Yeah, so like I like if I'll find a Netflix show that I fucking love and I'll like binge it, I love it, and like that's a good escape because for an hour that I'm watching an episode, I'm just into this episode, right? And there was a time where I stopped, like I literally again stopped watching TV. Every show I turn on and go, this is stupid, waste of my time. I'm watching Shark Tank. I'm watching anything, like that was it, you know. Or like I had like
you gotta learn. It has to be something it's helping you grow, right?
Which is important, but like you know, and again, it's hard for me to say this because like what got me here, but I do think when people ask if I can go back and change something, I burnt out, and there was a time in my life where when I had my anxiety, when it first hit, I was like, am I going to be able to continue to do this? Like, am I even capable of doing this? Because this anxiety is crippling. I can't even couldn't leave my house. I mean, I did, but it was like anxiety to the max, right? So like thinking about like,
are you going to fail? Like, where was the anxiety stemming from?
It was hard to explain. Like, I just had anxiety. Like,
always got to go.
It was like an anxiety. I started having panic attacks, some anxiety attacks, and then I started like, and then it developed into like when you have an anxiety attack, it like kind of shocks your system. Yeah, because you like literally to the point where like you're hyperventilating, about to pass out. Like, and this was like. It runs in my family, which I didn't really know. Mm-hmm. So like I got help, I figured it out. But like what developed was like like a daily anxiety disorder.
Yeah.
I don't know the right term, but like basically you wake up and you just immediately
feel it.
You
can
immediately
feel it.
and it's like, and you're worried. And I don't know how to explain it, but it's a crippling feeling where you literally can't go and like you don't want to leave your house, because the second you leave your house, it's not just social anxiety, but it is mixed with like interactions with people. And you have anxiety about the stupidest thing. Getting in your car and driving, you have anxiety about. Going and talking to people, having conversations, doing just anything that may drive a little bit of anxiety, just the smallest bit, is now amplified significantly. So if you have like, and anxiety is like healthy, it's good, like, you know, it
gets you out of bed sometimes,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
It could be a good thing.
My anxiety is what I think pushed me to be successful. So like it's like, you know, it's like a love-hate relationship with it, and it's just learning how to manage it. But so I don't know exactly, like, it was everything though. That was the thing, is when it became a disorder, is when it was everything and anything that I had anxiety about. And I had to, like, the only way to get rid of anxiety is to go and do it. If you're scared of heights, go and fucking stand on the mountain and stare at the, you know, stare down for a while, right? Or
Face the fear.
go to, you know, Magic Mountain and do roller coasters all day. And by the end of the day, you're going to be pretty cool with heights at that point, right? Like, so that's how you do it. And I've learned that you have to face it head on. I actually hate public speaking. Public speaking is not something I'm good at, not something that I like. And I've gotten so significantly better at it.
Because you're doing these engagements,
Yeah,
right?
you
You're
know,
doing the conferences or whatever.
Yeah, 100%. In fact, when I first hit my anxiety, I remember I had to go, we had to go up to, we won Shopify's Build a Business contest. And that's where, like, we were one of the highest grossing companies on Shopify.
Wow.
Or for the startup. As a startup, we were one of those. So it was our first year, and then, like, we won, and we're like, holy shit, we won. The COO of Shopify called us, left a message. It was like, this is fucking next level. We got to fly to New York, and we got to meet with all these mentors. The mentors included, the most notable ones, started with Little John. You had Gary Vaynerchuk.
Wow.
You had Mark Cuban was supposed to be there, but had a conflict. Tim Ferriss was there, and then Damon John was there. Those were probably like the most notable. So we go, and like, so anyways, before we go, I had this anxiety, my first ever daily anxiety, like
just knowing you're gonna have to be in front of these
no,
guys.
it was actually something else completely different that I stemmed from. Like, I think I had an episode on like a plane or something, and like it turned into this daily thing, and like this is the first time I was like, what the fuck is going on? I have anxiety disorder. Like, I had to like look it up, Wikipedia, whatever it was. Like, I had to figure it out. So I started going to a doctor, and like we're working on it, whatever. But a month later, I had to go, not only like fly to New York, which flying triggered it, but I had to go and actually like give like, which is nothing major, but like a quick 2 to 5 minute like not presentation, but just like introduce the company.
Yeah.
Right in front of literally like a row of seats of all these mentors. Right.
Oh my God.
And at the time, which isn't true, but at the time I looked at this as like Shark Tank. Like, if I don't do this, if I don't go to this is like a critical point of movement. If we like, I thought that like meeting all of them,
this is a big opportunity.
Yeah, I thought that meeting all of them was like a make or break it. It's not. Like, I don't engage in an ongoing relationship with really any of the mentors, but it could, like, at that point, and it could have been like, you know, one of them could have said I want to invest, or one of them could have said whatever. It was still early movement, so I don't think any of them really believed that we were going to build a watch company, to be completely honest. But so like, I had to go there and do it, and anyways, I went and did it and was fine, but like, that was like such a anxiety, like facing my fears head on is basically like the moral of that story, and like doing it, and like I just learned that the feeling after that, once you come out on the other side, is like the best feeling. That's why I love what Will Smith's doing.
I was just gonna say it. I was just gonna quote him. I was like, once you stop, I'm gonna hit him with the Will Smith.
Yeah, dude, Will Smith, Yes Theory, all those guys, like,
fires me up.
They are like so inspirational, and Will Smith has always been like, you know, it's funny, the first motivational video I ever like watched on YouTube was like the 7-minute Will Smith video. It's like compilation video of like
all his like sound bites or something like that.
Yeah, it's all these clips, and it's him talking about these old interviews of him talking about the treadmill. I'll die on the treadmill. And he talks about like, you know, realistic is like, being realistic is, you know, the fastest way to make your meritocracy, whatever. Yeah, like all these like things, and like I don't know. So it was just like fascinating, and I think about him as like more of a mentor than any other, because I think it's a mindset thing more than anything. And that can be applied to any industry, anything that you do.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Let's go back to Valencia. Let's kind of paint the picture getting up to movement. That was a great like little fire up what we're going to get into in a little bit, but I'm always interested in hearing about people's childhood because I think that so much plays a role. Little things have played a role probably there that have gotten you to where it is today. Paint me a picture of what Valencia is like for you growing up. Yeah, that's north of LA for people that are listening. Probably.
Yeah, so Valencia is basically Santa Clarita. It's where Magic Mountain is. It's north of LA, about an hour away. I liked Valencia growing up. You know, it's like it was kind of a small. It was a small-ish town for LA at least. Like, you know, all the high schools knew people at other high schools.
Yeah.
So I went to Valencia High School. There was Saugus, there was Hart, there was Canyon Country. So it's kind of a smaller group. Valencia, there was a lot of the parents were born and raised in Valencia too. So you kind of had like
an actual family culture.
Yeah, exactly. It was very much like suburban type of lifestyle, and like I think people a lot of people want to continue to have kids in Valencia. Like, it's not a bad place to raise families. It's only getting nicer and better, but I didn't really relate with a lot of the kids at Valencia, my high school specifically. And there was very few people that I really related to. I think drugs were kind of my class specifically. Like, a lot of the kids were just got into they weren't motivated. You know, I felt pretty lost. Because I was always trying to start a business or thinking about ways to make money, and I didn't really have anyone in my grade that was on the same kind of level. Drugs were a big thing for a lot. I don't know, Valencia was a weird thing. It was you had this picture of always clean,
beautiful Southern
houses,
California,
clean cut grass. The city was always clean. I don't know,
looked perfect.
It looked like a very nice place, but then you had these weird, I don't know, there's a drug problem, a heroin problem there, and it was very much families had issues, so it was definitely a picture that looked really nice, but living there I just saw kind of what it was. And I still love Valencia, don't get me wrong, that's where my parents still live, but I just knew I wanted to get out, and I didn't have the grades to go to college, so I had to find a community college that I can go to,
just to buy you more time to kind of figure things out.
Just to buy me more time, and also I wanted to experience college. That was one thing. If there's one thing my dad was pretty adamant about, he was you got to go experience college.
Where did he go to school? Or
he went to San Diego State. Yeah, so he had a good time back then.
I'm sure he had a grand old time.
Yeah, so he had a good time, and my uncles were all in fraternities, so it was very much
they wanted you to go try it out.
That was exactly. That was very much if there's one thing that my dad was pretty adamant about, it was go, you got to go to college, have fun, join a fraternity, be a kid, because once you're done, it's the real world. Which that always stuck with me. And then also so I went to Santa Barbara for a community college and lived in Isla Vista. My cousin went up there, so that was all right, I'll go up there as well. And it was the closest thing, because Isla Vista is 2 square miles of just college kids. There's literally no adult. If you see an adult walking through,
you're what is this person doing here?
Yeah. So it was pretty cool. Skateboards, longboards, kids everywhere. It's just the beach is right there. Just really paradise. And I kind of didn't realize it even at the time.
How good it was.
It was so amazing. And then my dorm, so to speak, was a dorm that was mixed kids that went to UCSB and then Santa Barbara Community College. So I pretty much had as close to a
full university experience without having to pay that type of tuition.
Exactly, without paying the tuition. And to be honest, I dropped out after my first year, so kind of the best experience, because I just lived there and had fun, and
you walked away without any issues.
Then, so, but I was always I was stressing, right? Because when I was in Valencia, so back, just to rewind to Valencia, 2008, I graduated in 2009 in Valencia. 2008, my dad had his credit report business, and with the economy crashing, he heavily relied, I think, on some of like I don't know if it was banks or what it was, but his clients, essentially, some of them went out of business, and some of his biggest clients went out of business, leading him to actually go out of business. He had a company for 22 years.
Wow. 22.
So it was pretty interesting because I didn't really understand the magnitude. I was like, oh, my dad's smart, like he'll figure it out. But you know, it was a business he developed for 22 years, and
just got ripped.
And so he tried starting new stuff, but like, you know, things weren't really working, and he was like investing his own money into all these things, but like he wasn't really making any income at the time. So kind of saw like our life go from comfortable to just like, and we were still okay because they were smart with their money. We lived was it like below kind of our means of what we could have. So
always had a cushion just in case.
Exactly. He was always smart, which, you know, my mom and him always like, that was the plan just in case. But so I don't know. I saw it like we still were okay, but like I just saw things kind of change, and like I saw them stress out more, if anything. It like I wasn't impacted too aggressively.
Yeah.
You know, they weren't buying. It's not like they were like going out and buying us like a bunch of stuff. Like, anyways, we weren't like spoiled or had that luxury, but I saw their lives kind of change because like my mom had to go get a job, my dad had to like figure out what he was doing. He was applying to get his real estate license. He was stressing, like, you know, we weren't going out to eat anymore. It was like, so
you could really feel the shift.
I just felt it, and it wasn't like horrible. People have it much worse, but I don't know.
You noticed it.
I noticed it. Yeah.
Were there brothers and sisters?
I have a little brother and a little sister, so I'm the oldest.
You were the oldest one.
My sister's 3 years younger than me, and my brother's 6 years younger.
And at the time when this is happening, do you already have your first business launched?
So, yeah, I just started my t-shirt company, which was called Nitelife Designs.
Yep.
And it started making, you know, like I started to make some good money where I think I was pulling at one point like like $10,000 a month or a week or something like that. It was
this is when you're still in high school.
I'm still in high school at the time, yeah. So like I started making money through this t-shirt business, and so for me, I wasn't affected by any of the stuff going on with my parents because all I needed was lunch money. Like I wasn't buying anything. Like so I was like, okay, I have a lot of lunch money, I guess. Like I was just like eating. I was going to college junior and like, you know, balling out. Like it was fine. I didn't know what, and all the money was like in my bank account building the business.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I was doing this, and like it wasn't a big enough business where like they just thought it was kind of like a one-off. Like, oh, you kind of figured something out. It wasn't for like probably a year where I was like continuously like I built an actual business, and they were like, holy shit, like you got to take this seriously. Like let's help you get like, you know, let's you know, you need to get a business license.
Wow.
Like so just like going on LegalZoom and doing some of this stuff, and I did it all, but it was like, you know, they kind of, my dad kind of was like, you got to go and make this legit. Like you have to get a tax ID number.
So how did he feel? He's the one that's like encouraged you to go to college, and then you're in there for 1 year and you drop out. How did they feel about you now stepping out? Because clearly you have something that's growing.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of stupid not to want to step away and move into that. But knowing that he wanted you to go to college to get the experience, how does he feel about you leaving now and dropping out?
Yeah. So my dad was always encouraging me to do like entrepreneurial stuff.
Okay.
So there was always, you know, he's more hands-on, you know, like he likes to build stuff. Yeah. He's like he loves like Alaska, and he loves the outdoors, and he likes to like build stuff. I'm like technology guy. I like
sit back, relax, type on the computer.
Exactly. I'm like, I like to reverse engineer things digitally online. Yeah. Like I'm pretty savvy in that sense. Like I like to figure stuff out, teach myself Photoshop, video editing. Like that was all stuff that I did. All these like different skill sets. And so where was I going with that? So he, what was the question?
You're dropping out. How did he feel about like dropping out?
So
because he's seeing you do well with the business, and then he's like, okay, maybe you should step away and focus on this.
Yeah. And I think for me, I started to kind of, you know, I taught myself all these things, and I was like figuring out. And when I went to college, I didn't have a set thing that I was like really doing. I was going to college to get a degree, and like I still had my business, and my business was making $100,000 plus at the time.
Wow.
So the business, like it scaled. It started with t-shirts. And it was like light up t-shirts.
Yep.
From t-shirts it went to selling like rave lights and accessories. I went to EDC.
Wow.
My friend's like, you got to bring these light up t-shirts to EDC. Like
people go crazy.
People go crazy. I go to EDC. People don't really care about the t-shirts. They're all giving like, you know, like fucking light shows and shit. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. I need to figure out who sells this. Next day I go online. There's one manufacturer selling these lights. Website looked like shit. I was like, I can do much better than this guy. Went all in, created this business off of rave lights, saw the opportunity, still called it Nitelife Designs, grew that into like $150,000, $200,000 business. Go to college with this business on the side, not really sure how I'm going to do it, but doing it, business is kind of still doing okay.
Yeah.
And I'm in college, like going to like math classes and computer classes, and like I remember going to this class one time and they turned on Into the Wild. Like we're gonna read the book and they wanted to like show us like the movie. And I'm sitting there in class for like an hour and a half going like, why am I sitting watching a movie in this class when I could be working on a business that's making me money? And that was like the biggest aha moment for me. And I'd go through the halls and like sticker slap like my brand on like, there's like a bulletin board where like you could be like, tutor,
what are you doing?
Tutor, yeah. I like put stuff there. My brain just wasn't there. So anyways, my dad had a friend who like was like helping manage or something at the Northridge Mall, and was like, hey, they actually have a spot available for the holidays if you want to come. Like
an actual retail location, or one of those like in the middle of the
mall?
Like
a 3,500 square foot retail location.
Holy shit.
It was pretty big. Or was it 30? No, it was 1,500. Sorry, 1,500. And still pretty big. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense, and we might as well try it. It was like super cheap. Like, you know, this place was notorious, actually. I forgot. It was notorious for going out of business. So like nothing had ever gone like longer than a year. So it had a curse.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I was like, I have an online business. Like my dad was kind of like pushing me to do retail, and he's like, and then I said, yeah, I want to do it, and not really knowing what that meant, but I was like, yeah, I want to do it. And he goes, Jake, you're gonna have to like drop out if you do this. There's no way you're going to be able to do both. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm ready to drop out. And he's like, think really hard about this. This is your decision. Are you ready to drop out of college to pursue this, you know?
Wow.
And I thought about it. I didn't really understand the magnitude of it, but there's no reason why college was like pushing me
to stay
towards it, right?
Yeah.
Like I was just kind of, I was like, there's no reason for me to stay at this point. So I was like, all right, I'm out. Gonna go do this all in. So he was supportive. Long story short, he was supportive enough. Now, fast forward, my business went under about 12 months later.
Man.
Not because of the retail store specifically. It was kind of like death by 1,000 cuts. And one way was I focused on the store. The store actually did $25,000 in, I think, December or something. So it was like pretty good, right? Like I did good. I was like, wow, that's great. My online business did $25,000. You're
making
together,
real money, man. You're making real money.
I was like, let's do this. It was a 3-month lease. So I made money. It was great. I was like, they asked if I wanted to renew. I said, okay, I'll do a year. And then fast forward, I had a competitor who actually went on Shark Tank. Mark Cuban said he was the best entrepreneur he's ever met.
Wow.
On Shark Tank.
Wow.
This guy built his business, and he was like 27. I'm like, must have been like
22 at the time. 21.
Not even. I was like
20?
I was like 20 maybe. Yeah, 19, 20. I think I was 19. And I was doing all this stuff, and this guy, just 27 years old, came, like, just destroyed me, put me out of business, all in. I was just, like, on the fence, didn't really have money, didn't really, like, realize how to do, like, run a business. And eventually I had to close it down. I had to break the lease, close it down in, like, 8 months.
Wow.
And I think it was because I focused on the store, which was like a certain audience, versus a e-commerce site where I can sell to everyone.
Yeah.
And this guy in like a year opened up 3 stores and had a bit better website than me. So he just like kicked my ass, every single way. And so my dad's attitude kind of changed a little bit, and not that he was upset with me by any means, but it changed for him being supportive of like me dropping out of college to pursue this, to being like, you got to figure shit out now. It didn't work, right? Like, just, I mean, real life. Not that I can blame him. Like, he didn't have money to support me living in Santa Barbara anymore.
Yeah.
Like, they're paying
because his business was done, right?
Yeah. So like, my rent up there was like $750 a month, probably $1,000 a month ish to like live for food and everything else up there. And he's like, go get a job or come home, or go to school. What are you doing? Like, So I went and got a job doing valet. It was like a pretty good paying job. It was like with tips, it was average out to about $18 an hour. So I was making pretty good money.
Was it hard to go into that though after being your own boss?
That was my first job ever at like 20 years old. And that was one of those things where I was so fucking scared. I did like drive stick. It was a 5-star hotel in
You're
Santa
driving
Barbara.
Lambos and stuff.
I was driving Lambos and like Beamers and Mercedes and everything you could think of, and like I had to learn how to drive stick. I lied. I had no idea how to drive stick. The first car that pulls up is like a stick. You kind of like, it's a group of guys standing waiting for a car.
Yeah.
And like a guy, you kind of like, I kind of would be like, oh shit, that's stick.
You got this one, Henry.
You got this,
you
bro.
got this,
and,
brother.
like, and the other guys are like, hell yeah, stick. Like, would love to drive this. So I learned eventually how, but and I actually felt much better because a bunch of guys crashed cars there. I was one of the only ones that didn't. But so I went through that, and then like my brain just like I like cut the cord on my business, which was like the best thing to do, and like really go, I'm not gonna hold on to this and like try and make it work. I'm just like, this is done. Like I'm gonna figure out what's next. And then I just started like playing with ideas and like trying to figure out what was next. But my dad was like, I don't know. He was very like, you got to figure your shit out. What are you gonna do? Like, he wanted me to get my real estate license. He wanted me to like be successful in some way, but it takes time to figure it out. You know? And I think I'm grateful because they were very supportive. It's not like they were like, some parents
cheering you on.
Yeah. I mean, they were like, they wanted me to figure it out, but even when I had movement, when I did $300,000 on movement, I think even when we did $1 million. I think he still at one point was like, what are you going to do? Like, are you going to start a watch business? Like, like he wanted me to go and consult for people to start their businesses. So, and then year 2, like that was a different.
And he was like,
stop.
okay, we're going to.
Yeah, he like,
do you need any help?
And that was he's the biggest like supporter and fan. But it's just, I don't know. I get why parents can be the way they are. And like, I think they're on a good side of the spectrum because they're pretty supportive and encouraged me and didn't care about college as much. Where some parents are like, just college, or go get a job. Stupid. Don't start your own business. Don't do this. So, where my parents were just kind of like,
it's up to you.
Yeah, kind of like indifferent. Like they supported me no matter what, and they weren't gonna like belittle me or like disown me for following my passion or something.
Yeah.
So.
And after the valet, is that when was the other business Glow Threads?
Glow
that
Threads
right after
Glow Threads came right after. So Glow Threads was a product that I developed during Nitelife Designs. So my first thing was like light up t-shirts. They're electroluminescent square panel, little battery pack, lit up to sound. It was kind of like cheesy and cool. And then that kind of phased out. I had a bunch of people copy me do the same thing. I didn't invent that technology. It was just China did or something. And then once that kind of got saturated, everyone had them and were selling them. I went to, I wanted to like create something else. So I saw this like, glow in the dark material that would light up to like UV light. So any glow in the dark.
You couldn't see anything in regular light. But
so just like we sold paint in the store.
Gotcha.
So we sold glow in the dark paint, and I'd like play with it, and you'd see it like glow up. So you can do that with actually any glow in the dark paint. Like you can actually like take
like a glow stick, cut it, and then put it on.
Kind of. I'm not sure if that would work, but same concept basically. And UV rays like interact with the paint. Anyway, so. My dad and liking to build stuff, built me this contraption out of wood, and I wish I had a picture of it. I got to find a picture of it, but it was like this thing where you basically clip on the t-shirt from both sides to like stretch it out. Yeah. And like so I'd have clip, and then I'd have vinyl behind it. Wow. And I'd wear this gas mask. and I'd get this paint sprayer. Yeah. Like really for spraying like walls, right? Yeah. And it'd be like start like an engine, and I'd spray the fucking shirt with glow in the dark paint. I'd flip it around. I'd spray it again. The paint would because like this paint was so thick and like it was like it wasn't like for this type of thing, and you needed a certain amount, otherwise it wouldn't glow. So like I couldn't like water it down. I had to like keep it. Too much information, but so it was like so manual, and I fucking hated it, and like it took me like hours. It took me 8 hours to do like 70 shirts. Oh man! Right? So I was just I hated doing it, but the shirts were selling. I like validated. Making money. I was making money. I validated the idea, but when you washed a shirt, like it started to fade too. So I hated everything about it. And I ended up reaching out to China manufacturers to try and figure it out, to reverse engineer it. And they somehow figured it out and reverse engineered it soft. And that's another thing. The shirt was like crusty. So like it was like
you didn't want to wear it.
It was kind of like cool, but like you just sprayed this thing with glow in the dark paint. But that was the way my dad's mind worked. I was kind of like, let's see if Alibaba China, I'll figure it out. And did it, and they got these like soft T-shirts, beautifully packaged, branded LED lights that like would come with it.
Wow!
And it looked great. Like it was something I was like, I could go and sell this to like retail stores. Like this was like changed the game for me. So I basically I started selling those T-shirts when the business closed down for Nitelife Designs. I started Glow Threads. I'm like, I'm just gonna focus on a product in this brand as is.
Yeah.
And I got it to like, you know, I probably did $60K in revenue, but it was just too niche, and it just continued. I had struggles with it. It was like,
I feel like that's something too that would go in waves. People like need it for maybe shows or certain.
The thing is like what I hated about even Nitelife Designs is I'd go into a room of 10 friends, guys, girls, whatever, and I'd say, you know, can I sell you this glow in the dark T-shirt? And maybe you get one who's like, oh, I don't know, wear that once, right? And they buy it and they wear it once, and maybe they never wear it again.
Yeah.
And I hate it. I just like knew that like that I couldn't. It's just too hard of a business, right?
Yeah.
And I was talking to like, you know, I was reaching out. I mean, I emailed, you know, like every sports team. I emailed Disney. My game plan was like, oh, if I can get like Disney years on it or something, and you know. But then you need so much money because they place these
massive orders.
Yeah,
right?
it just
so then you need a lot of capital to even get them what they're looking for.
For me, like the move there, I actually ended up selling that company for a very small amount. I guess I've had 2 exits now.
That's pretty badass.
But yeah, it was just too hard. I think if I had it now, I would treat it differently. But so I just learned a lot from that. I don't know where the question.
No, that's good. That's good. So when you exit that, is this when movement starts getting fired up, or because I know you did some consulting too? Did you start going in on that a little bit more?
So I pretty much stopped doing the Glow Threads thing. I was just kind of like, this isn't worth it anymore. I had a website. I was shipping stuff. And I spent a year trying to think about what I wanted to do. And
is it tough? Because you're going off of 2 different businesses you had started at this point. Did you feel like, all right, I'll find the next thing, or were you kind of in this like?
No, whoa. I definitely had ups and downs, dude. I would look at, so this is where like my girlfriend at the time introduced me to The Secret, which is like all about law of attraction. It's a book. I actually watched, there's a movie on it. Again, more visual, so the movie.
Yeah, you were good.
It was cheesy, but it was like, it's like a documentary type style.
Yeah.
But it just like, for the first time, I didn't understand what the law of attraction was. Like, I've always believed that if I want something, like somehow, some way I'll get it. Like I just believe like I'm going to, like, if I want something bad enough, and it's that anxiety that comes back because if I want something so bad, like I'm not going to feel settled until I get it. So it's kind of like, it's not, there's no like plan B as much. Like not that you can't have one, but like plan B, I'm only going to be happy with plan B for like so long. Right. I just was like really like dedicated to figuring out what I wanted to do next, and was thinking about all the things that I like learned from my last business. More so of like, it's funny, when I closed down, I've told this story before, but when I closed down Nitelife Designs, and like I'm in the store like throwing all my shit away, like, you know, turning off the lights, like the whole, you know, cue the music. Like I was there, I was like, what did I learn? Like, what the fuck did I learn here? And I couldn't really like think of anything. I tried to like write down on a list, and I like couldn't even, like, I wrote down like 2 or 3 things. I'm like, because I wanted to save it for the next time I did something, and I was like, this is stupid. Like what I wrote down it's not even like, I'll remember that forever. It's not even a big deal. And then when I went around and actually started hitting forks in the road to like start my next business, I started like making decisions based off what I learned.
Yeah.
So I really realized like, okay, it's, you know, some people could probably write a list. I wasn't that guy. Like it was more when you get confronted with a similar, you know, situation, like
you can go recall it. You can recall like, oh, I remember being at this point.
Exactly. So, and that's just the way like our brains work too. So it's like critical thinking, like problem solving.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot, and like I made decisions based off that, or I neglected certain business ideas off of that. But we played around. I mean, I wanted to start like a like a recyclable, like a boxed water. Like I wanted to do one of those. You know, they're all over there now, but I wanted to do boxed water. Our my roommate's uncle owns Reed's like beverages. They're all over like the ginger beer Reed's.
Yep.
So we were like, oh, we got a contact there. We can do this. Blah blah blah. Distribution, whatever. We thought about starting an agency. We were like pretty aggressively playing around with stuff on Kickstarter. I kickstarted Glow Threads too. For whatever reason, I got screwed in like Kickstarter. I had 17 grand of funding on Kickstarter, and then it was halfway through, and then they like canceled my campaign. I have no idea why. Never got the money. I threatened to sue them, but I had
I actually don't have lawyers, but
I had no lawyers. That we made a fake letter. My dad was fucking pissed too. Like they just took my money.
Send it.
It's so much bullshit. But so there was that, and then so I was just thinking about ideas, and I was working valet at the time, like always in the booth. There'd be guys driving in their like Lamborghinis who'd give me I'd go, hey, like, can I get your last name? Write down the last name, give them the ticket, go back to the booth, Google their last name. Like I want to see who they are, what they did, who was cool, who wasn't. I didn't care about, like, but just wanted to like learn about it. So I was always thinking about like what I could do next. And then with Kickstarter, like that was really a unique thing because I started to see all these businesses, and there was a kid in college that started a company that did really well. He raised like $200,000 or something, and we would talk to him, and you know, it was like his first kind of go at business, right, or his first like venture. And it's funny because I felt like I knew a lot of the things from Nitelife Designs and Glow Threads. I was like, wow, I could really apply some of those things to Kickstarter because like this is his first go at it. And no one really knew what Kickstarter was. No one really knew the concept. It was like still like a really kind of underground thing. And then my roommate, who's now my business partner, started his own company on Kickstarter. I helped with like marketing it. Just like, not that I knew how to spend money on Facebook or anything at the time, but it was just kind of like growth hacky, how to get free people to your Kickstarter campaign. And I helped him, and he ended up paying for a Cabo trip of mine, and his business made $100K on a campaign.
What was the product?
It was a wallet company.
Wallet company, right?
And then I was like sitting there like, okay, like this is real. I saw exactly what it took to do. Like I want to think of like a brand and a product that like, and work with him on something that we could really like love and grow together. And again, what I could go and sell to friends. Like what is something that my demographic needs? When I thought about fashion and the world of fashion, like I didn't have money to spend on like these type of things. But when I thought it specifically like about accessories, like watches were one thing that we liked, but again, like just didn't have cash.
Didn't have the money to spend for it.
Yeah. And then there was a few brands that like I felt we would all wear like more so than others. Yeah. Like the big guys we weren't really wearing, but there were some other ones that we were kind of, you know, liked more, but they just didn't have the brand that we wanted. So it was just all these like layers of like things that kind of
leading you to it.
Yeah, kind of like, it just took years of like learning and failing to then get to where I was like, I saw an opportunity. It seemed to click. It almost clicked so clearly where you're like, this makes sense. Why isn't anyone doing this? Yeah. Like, you know, you're like, you really saw the vision and saw like the clarity. Yeah. When no one else did. And it was kind of like, so it was really like surreal in that sense.
Because you probably saw, you guys are probably sitting there thinking of this idea, looking around at the market, going, how has nobody thought of this? Yeah. Let's just create this.
Yeah. And it's maybe not even that no one has thought. Well, I think
or executed. I guess you could say.
It's a lot of it's both, right? Okay. It's like ideas and execution. And for the first time, I was like, shit, I think I can execute this. And I mean, watches were certainly like the most complex product I was gonna like deal with, right? Like there was a lot of like, imagine. And like I knew the world of watches to some degree, but nowhere near as much as like. You know, to start a watch business, I really needed to understand the ins and outs. Like, I didn't know the manufacturing side. So, like, I had to learn a lot about that. And you just go, you know, as you go, you learn so much more. And so. So
at this time, this is 2013, you're probably 22 at the time then?
2013, I was probably like 22.
Man, yeah. So young. So when you and Kramer, the co-founder, are sitting there kind of putting this together, and you know watches is probably what you're going to want to create. What did you guys want people to feel from these watches? Because obviously we know what it is today. We see the end result, but even in those early conversations, like what what was the game plan?
Yeah, I mean, in the early days, it started as we just wanted to have a successful Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Right. So it was like, how do we do that? We want to make sure that like we have a brand that can be worn by everyone, like our demographic at least, and like be something that you a watch that can be worn in any kind of environment, whether it's formal or casual. And we wanted it to be, you know, something that really stood for something more than just the physical product that we were selling. You know, I believe that like all of the best brands in the world represent something more than just the product they're selling. You know, the why behind the brand. And the brands that I love are like the Nikes and Adidas of the world, right? Like they've just done such a good job at that. And I think evoking an emotion was something that we really wanted to do, right? For us, it was like this inspirational, you know, I don't know. It's just like that emotion of any of them, like just being inspired was something that just was so powerful. Cause like, I felt like I was always getting inspired by stuff and like, and like, there just wasn't any of that even in fashion. Like it was always like luxury, or it was always like, you know, action sports, or it was like these different like segments, but it wasn't just like this emotion. Why not just like focus on have a meaning, right? And then in terms of like the design and everything, like we liked at the time, it was like, you know, minimalistic, simple, kind of modern. And then we just knew that we wanted to have still a very, you know, high quality product. But we wanted to make sure that the price point was something accessible. And that's where we started, right? That was just like, let's see where this goes. We didn't have enough time or energy. Like, you know, when you start a business, you just need to make sure it survives. You can focus on so much more of the fluff and not the fluff, but like the things, the brand and the stuff that like, you know, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to make money on it right away. But if you don't like actually sell your product, like none of that matters. So like make money, build the business, sell products, and then everything else becomes easier. Like when you're selling watches or you're selling your product, you can focus on the stuff that like emotionally matters. But you know, you can have the best brand for the best, you know, the best brand and the best like story behind a brand. But if you're not selling anything, it doesn't matter. Yeah. So and they're both important. Don't get me wrong, but I just wanted to make sure that we executed our campaign right and marketed it right. And we had all these like pieces, but like they weren't fully built out. And I think as you grow, that's when you can kind of like build the entire story. You know, like I didn't have like a business plan. It was in my head, but it wasn't like, I wasn't going to think about what year 1, 2, or 3 were going to look like when I didn't even know if I was going to be around in 60 days from now. Yeah. So it's just like focusing on like little milestones. And then once that happened, it was like, okay, how are we going to get to $1 million in revenue this year? And you just learn about stuff. Like, I think businesses grow. Like, you're not going to have all the answers day one. And I think if you stick to like what you say completely day one, I think that you're probably going to fail because things change, your business change, your customers you're gonna like who your early adopters are great, but like that's not mass market, right? No. Like if you want to grow to be $100 million business, you're gonna have to reach people outside a little. Like they're not all gonna be the exact demo. You're gonna have you know some different. Now, not to say that the brand needs to change like its purpose or reason, but like we've been very true to like what we believe in this inspirational, aspirational lifestyle, but we've just kind of grown.
Not every customer.
It's evolved.
Not every customer is going to be the picture perfect customer. Yeah. There are going to be some customers that like are the ideal candidate, and then there are going to be some that like kind of make sense, but they're still just sold on the products or the branding or just everything about movement.
Yeah, and I'd say we've evolved more than like. It's not that we've changed; we've just evolved. You know, we've grown. The mission and like the belief of what the brand has always stayed the same. It's just. It's grown to be a little more complex, to have more purpose behind it. Yeah. You know, even just like the aesthetic of our Instagram or the fashion aspect of it, like, you know, you want certain things, and like any business, like you look at Nike probably 30 years ago, like they probably looked very different than they look today. Definitely. And everyone has had ups and downs. Every business has ups and downs, right? Yeah. And I think the businesses that were doing well that hurt today are the peoples that refuse to sometimes grow, whether it's in product or even in brand sometimes. And that's something I've learned a lot as I've met a lot of other brands that I still look up to immensely, but I feel like some people kind of refuse to like grow as much as we want to always be adaptive and like if things change, like we have minimalist products right now, but we're not a minimalist watch brand. Like this is just the aesthetic that we really like today. As fashion changes, right? If we're gonna stick to something, and that's why inspirational for the brand side of it. The fashion side of it, we know will change and like abide by like what we're inspired by from a fashion aspect today. For the brand side, we'll grow. Like we need to be able to grow, and like I think that's just important. Some people like don't want to do that.
They just want to stay to the same
because
thing.
they want to stay true. But like, and I get that, but you don't need to change who you are, but it just depends on what kind of business you want to have too. You know, like. Customers change, like, and that's why we didn't want to stick with like a sub segment of, like action sports or like a certain industry. Like, we wanted to be an emotion. You're always gonna have that. That's a forever thing. Doesn't matter if you're fucking 50 years old. You're still gonna be inspired by things. Yeah. And especially what we represent specifically, living life on your own terms, like. You should always want that. You have, Will Smith, who's 50 years old, jumping out of helicopters over the Grand Canyon.
He's still living.
He's still living. And if you're not, then there's probably an issue, right? Yeah. But so it was just like these things that you think about. You're like, what is longevity? What is, it's just like reverse engineering to some degree.
See, that's it. That's really key to what is why you are where you are today, because you've always been somebody, what it sounds like, that is reverse engineering. We know this is where I want to go. How do I get there? Yeah. Because thinking about that long play of like, we don't want to be a sports watch. We don't want to be a certain box. We want to just be this overall emotion that connects with anybody and everybody. Yeah. Now, how do we get there? And let's come back in a couple steps.
Yeah. I'd say that's probably it's funny. I was thinking about this like yesterday. That if there's one thing that's my strongest like set of skills, it's my ability to reverse engineer things. Whether it's the brand or like how to make a product or whatever, or it's like really anything, marketing. Like I mean, I've taught myself Facebook, I've taught myself Photoshop. I've some of the manufacturers we work with, I've found who are very good manufacturers, like we found because of like just figuring out who a brand that we respect in terms of quality, and then finding like a manufacturer they work with. Like sunglasses was a great example. Like we were like, how do we come out with quality sunglasses from scratch? And we found a really good like consultant who works with a really well validated manufacturers, and so that's been a good piece of it, because sometimes referrals are great. If you get a referral from someone you trust, it's always great. But even today, where I have such a good network now, sometimes we get referrals and they're just not. They're not the right. They're not. They're good, but like, I still see all the time where like, it makes me feel good because like I go and put in the effort to like reverse engineer something, and we get referrals and we end up using like a contact, or we end up going with an idea that I reverse engineered, and I'm like, damn, like that's just shows like there's a skill set there. Yeah.
You know what the first question was that you asked me when you sat down in the chair today?
What was it?
You said, what's the long play of this?
Yeah.
Where do you want this to go? Yeah. And that's now I'm like I got the butterflies in me, because I'm like, this guy really is in it. Like that's what you want to know. You want to know the bigger picture, so you can understand, well, why are the steps that you're taking trying to get you to that bigger. Yeah.
It also just helps me understand like, well, yeah, for me, I like to like.
But also the why. I think that also too becomes that gives you the answer of why is somebody doing what they're doing.
Yes, 100%.
When you guys are growing, how hard is it for you going from the point of, I would imagine you're touching everything that's happening of the business, to now you're not really having actual direct contact? Because I would imagine there gets to a point where it's like you're overseeing it, but you're not actually in it. You don't see the process. Like, all right, we know what the marketing plan needs to be. Now you have to go execute it. How hard is that for you to start dishing out the workload as the team grows?
Yeah, I dealt with that earlier. Probably when we got our CMO was like the gnarliest like change. I really had to like figure out my place in the company. So basically for the first 3 years or whatever it was, 2.5 years, I essentially owned the website, all of the advertising spend that we were doing, like the brand stuff. Like even though like I had people like Blake and Spencer who were helping me and working with me on stuff like that, it was very much like I had a piece of like the marketing, the brand, like still oversaw the product, like all of those pieces, right? even manufacturing, like, you know, I wasn't doing, Kramer was doing, but I was like close to like all of these things. And then I got to a point when we hit $30 million in revenue. I was like, I don't think I can do more. Like,
Yeah.
I think we're going to break soon. Like, I just felt it, you know, because I was like taking calls and like I wasn't attentive enough to certain things. I had to turn down opportunities. I was like, this isn't, I just felt it. So I was like, I'm going to go spend the next few months finding a CMO, which I wasn't sure what I needed if it was CMO. So it took me 2 months to figure out what I needed. I was like, okay, talking to people, CMO is what I need. And when Ryan came in as our CMO, he's been there for maybe 3 years now, almost 3 years.
Wow.
That was so scary for me because I'm like, does this guy know what he's getting himself into? Like, we're a bunch of kids in this like office building.
What was the age difference at the time? Do you know?
He was 39 or 40. He was
Oh,
probably 40.
So you guys are in your like mid 20s.
He was, yeah. I mean, we were 24. We were all 24. He's 40, and you know, comes in and he was running $70 million budgets at his previous company. He was like he's an all-star. And we relocated him from San Diego. Him and his family came up. So,
wow.
it was like I was like, I just felt like I felt like stress. I was like, we got to make this work because like I'm like relocating people now. Like,
yeah, this is a big deal.
And I know people do that all the time, but I just had a personal you know, I just felt like I put it on my own shoulders to like get it done. But anyways, he came on and he started taking over stuff, and like it took like a transition. It was like I wanted him to understand the brand, so I was still involved, but he is so smart and knew so much more than like what I do about stuff and managing and hiring, and so he really took all of the marketing stuff. And then, you know, whatever it was, 4 or 5 months down the road, when he was really doing it all, I started removing myself from meetings that I just didn't need to be in anymore. And I kind of like looked around and I was like, okay, like he's really running a lot of the marketing stuff now at this point. You know, like I still have my opinions on the brand and like product and, you know, like who we hired, I still was heavily involved in, but like he was really running a majority of the stuff now. And like every kind of few months I started to remove myself more. So I just had to figure out like what is the most value that I can bring that only Jake Kassan can do in the company? What can Jake Kassan only do in the company that Ryan, Blake, no one else can do? So I just had to start thinking about this, and it was like, what are the next big initiatives that we have? You know, like how is this company going to continue to grow? You know, so like hiring, we got a COO who's been like game changing as well, and just focusing on like, you know, do we need to raise money to get into like wholesale or, you know, open up retail doors? Like, who are the brand, like who do we want to work with on the brand? Like, we need to hire more people. So I was in interviews for hiring people, like just building the infrastructure of the business to grow. It was just like things that I could only really do. So it was kind of scary at first because you're like, you know, you don't know what your role is, and you have to kind of learn what your role is. And you have these like, you know, people are like, oh, I'm an executive coach, like, you know, coach you on how to do stuff, and like I can help you build your business. So you get like a lot of like, you don't know where to churn. Like I talked to founders to like understand what they did, and the difference is like a lot of founders who come from like, you know, the big guys who raise money, their job is like making sure the business is well capitalized and hiring the right people, right, for the most part, because they want to raise just enough money to keep them going until they need to raise again. But raising capital could take 6 months, right?
Yeah.
So they're out talking with, you know, whether it's bankers or their team, building a deck, trying to manage the business so that it looks good, so they can go out and raise the right valuation, the right amount of money they need. Then they're out pitching to people. There's due diligence. Like they're going through all this stuff, and not real, like they're running the business, but it's like they're raising money, right? And then they're hiring people to do jobs for them. And when you raise money, you're on ultra growth, so you're just we need to hire, you know, 5-10 people, whatever it is. Like versus us, we have 40 people. You know, we hire maybe, you know, one person every like 2 months, or we'll hire like,
wow,
you know, whatever it is. Like we're pretty, like, it's been pretty lean. So I don't know. It's been an interesting, like, even now today, like I like to focus on, now that I have a COO, my CMO, like they focus on a lot of the day to day. I've kind of removed myself from that. I want to focus on like who we're going to work with from like collaborations and the brand, and like make sure that's relevant, where the brand is going, like what are things that in terms of wholesale and distribution, in terms of retail, like just what can I only like kind of move the needle on is what I think about. So
does that help you too now, kind of giving you like a clear headspace, going back to kind of like what we started, like the anxiety? Now you have all the right people in the right place. Now you can kind of just focus on more of just one thing. Or I've even been seeing like your face a lot more now. Like I was literally working out 24-hour fitness 3 weeks ago, and I look up and there's your face. I'm like, what the hell is going on? So is it now more of just like thinking about the bigger picture items? That's what you need to handle, and maybe it's doing more interviews, or what does that more of look like on a day-to-day now?
Yeah, I mean, there's like a lot of meetings. There's a lot of touch points that like I'm trying to like figure it out still, to be honest. Like now is an interesting time as we got acquired and we have a parent company, and trying to figure out like where Jake fits in. Like I'm still running the show. Like nothing's really changed. Like my day-to-day is like I get a ton of emails every single day. Where there's meetings. We have product meetings like I think twice a week now. We have we have like a demand meeting where we all talk about performance once a week. Or we have like either a staff. I have like one-on-ones with like my reports. So the CMO and COO. We have what else? We have like a directors meeting where we get all the directors in the company and talk about results. We're planning for next year. We're planning for product for next year.
Wow. So
it's like I'm going to New Jersey next week to go meet with Movado. They were out here a few weeks ago. I have a trip scheduled in for like distribution stuff in a few months. There's like speaking stuff that I get invited to. So there's like all these little things that they just pile up.
Yeah.
And some of it is just like taking the time to like think about and like talk to the team about like creative stuff or brand stuff, or like how's the business going to grow? Like what are we going to do to get the business to the next level? There's like website stuff in terms of like how to optimize our site that like I'm just pulled into discussions for. Like there's just like a lot of things that like they want to get signed off on.
Yeah.
And not that everything needs to be like that's, not that I need to be in every single meeting, but there's some big decisions now that just need to be.
You want to be. You need to be.
I want to be. You just want to be in the loop of them.
Whether the ideas, you want to come in and listen to what the presentation is
exactly.
about.
Whether you're a fly on the wall, it's just like it allows you to get a good understanding of what's going on. And but I do think like being I'm more visionary.
Yeah.
So just being like mindful of like how to get movement to the next level, because otherwise you get stuck in the repetition of what works.
Yeah.
And you don't like go and think about. So
start taking back. You start taking too many vacations and everything's going, and then all of a sudden 3 years later, the same system is not working anymore.
And it's not even like it could be you're working your ass off. Not even like the vacation stuff. It could just be like you're working, doing what you've done that got you here.
Yeah. How do you take it to the next
level?
But
like at some point, like you need to think about like how to diversify, not just product, but like brand or like strategies, or like how do you continue to innovate? Really, it's innovation, not in product innovation, but just innovate in like how you execute things or how you go to market for certain things. So, and again, that's why like Nike and all these guys do so well, and they're in a unique situation where they do like. They're just like one of the biggest consumer brands. And
massive.
They work with the biggest people in the world, but it's just thinking about stuff like that. So
I had read online you guys have been approached by venture capitalists and angel investors multiple times throughout the years. Why take $100 million with the Movado Group? Why did you finally say yes? I mean, obviously we can all say, well, if I got offered $100 million, look, I would take it, but what did you see as the big pros to taking on this relationship with them?
So if we would have raised money, we would have really had to continue to, there would have been a lot. We would have had like an investor who we worked with. It would have been a partner, similarly. They wouldn't have owned the whole company, but they would have owned a big piece. And we would have had a really high valuation. We would have had a valuation that we would have had to go and,
it would have been tough to sell, essentially.
Not even that, but it's like it would have been, if we would have worked with basically like an investor is an investor. Mm-hmm. Their goal is to make a return on their money,
of course,
right? And a certain return. So they're like they not that they would cut corners, but they have a VC is basically they take other people's money and they promise them that they're going to get them like a certain return on their money. So they need to get, they're always looking for a certain return on all their investments, and they know some are going to fail, but knowing that they're going to, if they're good, they'll find people who do have successful exits. So they would like push us to grow and maybe do things that aren't good for the brand but good for numbers, because they just want an exit and they don't have any like expertise, right? It's not like they have been in the watch industry or know what they're doing. Like, where do they add value? They really didn't. They just had cash. And there's some smart people in venture capital, but for what our business, like, it wasn't a good, there wasn't like help there. When you look at like a Movado or like any watch company, like, they actually know distribution. They have, they have like, decades of experience. They have employees, like, they have infrastructure that can actually help us execute very quickly.
Yeah.
And do it in a mindful and respectful way of the brands, and not like, hurt the brand. So like Movado came along and, essentially, wanted to buy the company, but also, there was that earnout to give us all like an opportunity to continue to grow. So it was a no-brainer because, the synergies of the brand, they cared about the brand. They wanted to protect the brand. They cared about, what stores we were sold in and what the strategy is. They wanted the team to stay intact. They wanted the product to stay the same. That, like, it was very much, they cared about like what we cared about.
Yeah. And
then gave us an opportunity to grow and do, because we were already going to do what Movado, what we were going to do was go raise and do what we're doing today, right? In terms of like the scale, like the path to scale was the same no matter what. You just had this brand, Movado, who's done it and knows and has relationships and team and everything else. And you have these guys who have money, right? And there's uncertainty on the other side. And you also hike up like the price to like sell, but also like whether you go an IPO or whatever, there's just like a lot of uncertainty there. And honestly, like, we didn't connect with anyone like we connected with Movado and their team. Like, it was like they got us. It just felt right. So it's just, I don't know. It was really unique. I think we were a good example of like how businesses could be done. Even if you raise money, like, I don't think that's bad if you raise a small amount of money, but you should just keep it where you're flexible and can work with, a strategic, so to speak. And not like brands that raise at 100 or not 100, but raise at like 200 or 3 or 4 or 500 million valuations, you're pricing yourself out to only get bought by like huge conglomerates, and they're gonna have to bet a lot of money that you're gonna be $1 billion business or something. So it just doesn't make sense, because basically if you raise at like 100 million valuation, typically it all depends, but there's private equity, there's VC, there's early stage VC, like, but like it gets really confusing, to be honest. I'm still confused on it, but like an early stage VC, so if you raise at a 10 million valuation, like, that's probably considered an early stage. They want a 10x return on their money, so they want you to sell for 100 million at some point, right? Not to say they won't buy, or not to say that you couldn't sell before that, but that's their expectations. As you get bigger, the funds are different, so like they know that if they're writing a check for someone who has like a 100 million valuation, it may not be $1 billion company. It really depends too if you're tech or product, but if it's product, like, maybe they want a 3 to 5 times like returns. But still, if you raise it 100 million, they want, a 300 to 500 million valuation. So they're investing in like the future, and they want you. And again, not to say that you couldn't get out, or not that you couldn't sell if an opportunity presented itself, but there's all these like things that you have to learn and like realize. And again, there's no strategic value. And that was the biggest thing. It was like strategic value.
Were you scared to sign like that contract, or were you, at the time when it finally happened, you were like so confident, you're like, yep, I know for a fact this is going to be well worth it?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't scared. I think, I also had some anxiety days after, not signing, but like when the deal closed officially.
Yeah.
Because you think about this like place of bliss, and like, you sold your company, like, you should just be on top of the world and happy, right? And I think some people get really bad depression or anxiety when they sell and leave the business, because they're like, what's my purpose? I'm not doing anything anymore. Yeah. For me, I'm still like, it's still like every single day, nothing's really changed from a work perspective, but I think I realize like, okay, like, I somewhat figured out the business side of my life, my career, but I have a lot to figure out on my personal side. So that it was kind of that like realization where I was like, all right, I really just need to like focus on like balance and everything else. But I wasn't scared to sign I was excited. I mean, I think there were some unknowns of like, there's always unknowns with anything, but like we're a couple months in now and things have been fantastic and great, and we're excited about, where we're headed. So
that's incredible. What for you, I mean, looking back on the last 5-ish plus years, has there been one mistake that you've either regretted or something that you kind of took away as like, I just have to remember that for the next time?
That's a good question. I mean, I've said this, like, things have worked out well, so it's hard for me to like think about, mistakes or something I've regretted. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've certainly learned a lot. Like, there's not one thing that I can think about that's like, don't do that again, or it was a bad decision. I'd have to.
So a lot of it just sounds like it's just building blocks.
It's just like, you face challenges, you make small mistakes. I mean, there's certainly some things that are probably not. There's things that are like more personal. Not personal, but like not publicly talked about. But
another different podcast.
Different podcast for another day. Maybe down the road. But no, it's been good. I think. For the most part, there's no like glaring red flags that I like kind of made or bad decisions. So.
Yeah. All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, I had to go comb out my beard. I realized I wasn't looking too good in the camera, and I got to make sure when Jake's in the building that it looks good. I guess my next question would be for you. We have a lot of entrepreneurs, and I think this question too can help a lot of creatives out there. But for people that are kind of starting up their ideas, like, what's the best piece of advice you'd have for them? They're in that beginning stages. Nobody's really paying attention. Nobody really fully knows where they're headed. Like, what's the best advice you would give to the young entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we talked about, I'm a good
reverse engineer.
Yeah, reverse engineer. So like, start looking and understanding how businesses got developed and created, and like try and learn as much about business through podcasts or online or, books or whatever it is that you can, to just realize stuff and learn. And then I think, talking with people, whether it's founders that you can get in touch with, even if it's just like a local, company, like, just learn about the ins and outs of certain businesses. Like, I would try and stick to businesses that you think you might be interested in, but you just like learn a little bit about how people work and how they operate. And if you can get an internship somewhere, even if it's a free, non-paid, like, that's you're not getting paid to go to school. So like, go and do that and like learn how to, the inside of a business. I think it'll really like be eye-opening. And also it's like different because seeing a business for what it, like, seeing movement today doesn't necessarily teach you about how we started, but it's still good to just realize like the ins and outs of certain things. And, now there's so many resources online. Like, I just got to imagine that whenever someone asks me a simple question, like, hey, how do I'm kind of like, I like to give people tips and help and advice. I don't like to give people who ask
the same,
well, just like simple questions that could have been, if you can Google it, I'm not answering it. Right. Like,
I'm with you.
It's like, and also like, if you don't get somewhere, I'm not usually someone to like go and like help that person. Because I just, take
the initiative.
Yeah. There's just the internet, and you have so much at your fingertips now that if you haven't gotten off the ground, like, I just need people to like get out, do it, like, make it happen. And don't get me wrong, like, I've been at a place where I've like helped people early on in early stages, and I feel like, I've been there. Like, I feel like now I'm like at a place where like you have to show a little bit more initiative, because like I didn't just go ask. Like, I used my asks from people very like strategically and delicately,
give value.
Yes,
don't ask for anything.
Even today, I was talking to someone at our holiday party last night, and it's like, I have a lot of these relationships that I can go and ask, but for like certain things, and he even said, he's like, why don't you just ask for that? And I'm like, I don't know, I don't really do that, like, that's and I do at certain times, but like, I don't know. And so I'm just still strategic about it. I'm like protective of like, I never want someone to think that I'm just like using them or anything 100%. Like that. So I want to have some sort of value if possible. So anyways, I'd say like there's just so much self-education that you can just go and learn, but also you can only learn and learn for so long until you actually just have to go out and do. And like, when you go out and try and fail, those are lessons you're going to learn.
I feel like the world we live in now, it's not about creating the best business plan. It's about just starting
Yep.
and figuring out shit as you go.
Yep.
Because that business plan is not going to be what you thought you wanted it to be in 6 months when you realize you've been doing this wrong, or maybe this is going to work better,
Yep.
or like just the process of doing. Like people hear it so much in podcasts and you see so much content about it, but it literally, that is the best way to learn, is just go out there and actually do it.
Yeah, you have to be, entrepreneurs are professional problem solvers, right? Like you just have to be able to solve problems because that's every day there's a problem, every single day. And it's just being able to like make a decision. Now, I think that it's better when you have people who specialize in a specific, thing in your business, or COO, or someone doing finance, or someone doing marketing. Like you kind of trust them to be that problem solver.
Yeah.
But when you start off, you have to make decisions and be a professional problem solver on your own. But that's why I do think that, like, if you read a book and learned something from a book, or if you listen to a podcast and I mentioned something that like clicks with you specifically in your business, well, you just solved a problem, but like you did it by, listening to someone or educating yourself. So, I don't know. It comes down to a lot of that, and like I'm not a good person. I'm not great at retaining knowledge. Like I'll read a book. I'm the guy who reads a page in a book and goes, I don't remember anything I just read. You know what I mean? Like
I don't read.
Yeah,
I haven't read a book in
I don't
2 years. I just listen. I listen.
Same. I'm a visual and kind of audio guy, and it for the longest time I struggled to even get into audio stuff because I'm more visual than anything. Because the audio, like I'd be listening, and same thing. Like I listened,
doze off a little bit.
I just doze off, but it did get my attention on a few points, and those few points, could have been pretty impactful. And it just depends. Some books I was like, zoned in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not a good reader. Like, and just because it's like I'm focusing on like reading versus just like listening and letting my mind like. And I've actually read it. I read there was like a study that said that audio books are actually, you retain more from audio because you can listen, think, and imagine something, and then connect like that thought versus you're using two senses kind of.
Yes.
So it was interesting, but
yeah, the audio, man, is such a difference.
Yeah.
Because it allows you to really also too, just with the world of podcasting, it allows you to tap into conversations that you would kill to listen to, but maybe you're never gonna be able to sit in on that business meeting because of whatever reason. Like now kids anywhere or anybody in the world could listen to a conversation between two people, three people of like, holy shit, I can get inspired from this. I can learn a lot. Yeah. There's going to be some entrepreneur that listens today, here's what you said, and like, that's what I have to do to my business. I got to incorporate that somehow. And it's free knowledge. Like, this doesn't cost people anything. So it's literally just like a win-win.
Dude, it was weird. When I right before I started Movement, I was like, in the law of attraction, I used to go on Tumblr and like have these like, they weren't even my mood boards. I just find these guys who like post it all the time. And like, they essentially... it was a mood board of what I wanted. It was just like the aspirational lifestyle. Not even that I'm like a super flashy guy, but I wanted the nice house, the nice car, the nice vacations, like all that stuff. Like that was like what I just wanted like financial freedom. So I would like sit here and like, visualize all this stuff. But there wasn't any entrepreneurs or successful people that I could really like relate to that much. Like at the time you had like Mark Zuckerberg, or you had even like Mark Cuban, or like any of the Elon Musk, whoever it was, but they're like geniuses, right? You have these like, Mark Cuban's the closest one to me, and that's why I think Mark Cuban is so heavily popular in like, I feel like our demographic, because he's just kind of like a guy's guy, and great. But you have like Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and all these other guys who are like so, or Bezos, who are so highly publicized, but they're just not, it's just not the same, right? Like for us, you didn't have like a young entrepreneur who figured it out. So I didn't really have any of these like resources, people doing like, podcasts. It was known, but it like wasn't the same level.
Not what it was, not what it is today.
Yeah. So like now you have like so many opportunities, and then you have Shopify, who does great blogs, and you have so many great resources where, I don't know, it'd be interesting. I feel like the amount that you could self-educate in high school, right? Like, I don't like the curriculum of high school or college. I think it's broken. But the fact that you have all these at your fingertips to like start learning about at such an early age, and like the cost to start is like, the barrier to entry is so easy, which also makes it harder. But like, you don't really have an excuse to not be learning or like understanding. And like there's like classes and stuff that you could pay for, but there's a lot of free stuff, man. I actually think that like most of the best knowledge is free. That's 100%. Out there.
And I also think too, it's like, yeah, there are more people doing these things, but I think the only thing that is going to separate the people or the winners from the pack are the ones that see it through. Yep. And they keep showing up and keep working. Yep. And we're spending those late weekend nights putting in the work when the other people are celebrating, you know? So
100%.
So even like the best part is all the knowledge is out there. All the resources are available. Very low barrier to entry. Now it's just about how bad do you want it?
Yeah.
How many more times are you going to, just like the treadmill, I'm going to keep running on the treadmill. I'm going to die on the treadmill.
Yep.
How bad do you want it? Because if you really want it and you see it through, I guarantee you're going to come out on top.
Yeah.
I guarantee
No, you have to. And that's why the early days, all days are important. Like there's just sacrifice. I mean, here's a good example. Like not that I care about this or that much, but like my parents, so I have this big, like, my uncle's birthday is this weekend. So like, my whole family's going to Cabo.
Nice. Let's go.
And I was supposed to go, but I can't because I have some work stuff to do. And like, I have to go to New Jersey. We have a big Movado meeting. Like this is stuff that like, there's a sacrifice that you have to make. And not that you should always, I'm also going to Vegas on New Year's, so like I picked my battles here.
Yeah.
Or not my battles, but I picked what I wanted to do and didn't want to do. But you just have to make the sacrifices. Don't stop. But it's about, you have to choose when you're gonna like. There has to be balance. So I guess my point being is like, you got to work on the weekends. You got to hustle. You got to stay up late. You got to work harder than the next guy. You still have to have that balance. But like, so it's not. I agree with what you're saying basically, but it's just like it's showing that it doesn't stop.
Yeah,
you're always gonna have to work harder than that, and you have to know what you're signing up for, because if you don't know, this is entrepreneur life. You're giving up the 9 to 5 to have to work when no one else is working, or to like my busiest season is like during the holidays, like Black Friday, Thanksgiving, like this Thanksgiving was the first time I kind of like didn't really have my phone like. Texting
freaking out, trying to make sure.
Usually, I was like, I was either like in the office until the very last minute, or I brought my computer with me, or I was thinking about it. I was checking emails. I was dealing with shit. Christmas. We have we usually have a sale the day after Christmas, so it was just like all these like holidays. I couldn't go anywhere for things like I'd go to like my family's, but I couldn't. It's not like I was going out of town or doing all these vacations. I haven't really taken like a big vacation that was just me and the boys, or just me, since I've started the company. I've had a family vacation. I've had 2 family vacations, which is I love, and it's great, but it's not, and it's good to get my head out of it, but it's still not like I've pick and chosen what vacations I go on, and I've chosen like just do family time for now.
Yeah.
Next year will be the first time I really go on a like. I'm going to try and go to Japan next year. I'll do like at least 10 days. That'll be the first time I've ever done like me, the boys, vacation, and like pretty much since the business. Yeah, for sure since the business has started. Wow. So I've done little things, don't get me wrong, but
nothing where it's like I'm going kind of off the grid for
like I'm traveling. I've been to Hong Kong, China. I've been to New York. I've been to Texas. I've been all these Miami, but it's all for work. So I've never like. And I've always been like, oh, cool, I'm traveling. It's cool. But like,
you're not actually like,
I'm never like going and just doing what I want for 10 days.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important. Whether you just like, it could be a 5-day vacation. It doesn't need to be, crazy expensive or anything, but just doing something where you remove your thought from your day-to-day stress is important.
Yeah, and get away from it all.
Yeah.
And looking back on the last 27 years of your life, if you had to write a book today, what would you title it?
That's a good question, man. I play around with this idea all the time, because there's like that there's like the title that comes off as like I'm a marketer at heart. Yeah. So like it's like it's got to be a
business move.
It's got to be something that's like gets off the shelf, but I don't know. I love this sounds cocky and stupid, but like there was always like I always wanted to make like at least $25 million by the time I always wanted to like have not a big exit by 25, but I wanted to have like $25 million so I can title a book, Drake's line, which is 25 sitting on 25 mil.
Oh.
But that was always like my, like, if you see the, like, our generation knows that line.
Yeah.
Would see that
Yeah.
and go,
Oh, I need this book real quick.
But I don't know. To be honest, like, I think if I were to write a book one day,
Yeah.
there'd actually be a big portion about it, about like the mental health side of it.
Yeah.
Or maybe there'd be a separate book that comes later about it. I don't know. You know, it'd be something that's, you know, like what's the book that's like, what is it? If I use something fucking badass or something. You know what I'm talking about? There's like this book that's, I forgot what it is, but it's like, anyways, it has like fuck in the title.
The Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
The art,
Yeah.
The subtle art of not giving a fuck. That was one of them. Yeah. There's like a couple of them.
Yeah. That sells me. I'm walking by.
Dude,
I'm like, yep, let me get that real quick.
That's like an Instagrammable cover. You know what I mean? So like, you just have stuff like that, and so there'd be a marketing side of it. But I think what the book would be about would have, you know, elements of like, you know, obviously like where it all started, and I think the mental health side of it, and then also just like trying to like give people, like, have things that are relatable. Tell like my childhood story, because I think when you hear about someone growing up and you start to realize like, oh, that's the way I think. Like, oh, that's the way, like, yeah, I had like,
I did ballet.
Yeah. It's like stuff like that, or it's like, you know, I sold lollipops and I built keychains and like, it's weird. Like, I literally saved up. I was just saving money from like all my like, you know, holiday, like birthdays and everything. Like, I had $1,000 saved up to go and buy like a laptop. I never bought it, but like, I don't know, all these like traits that I had that I kind of come to realize like actually had elements of like this entrepreneurial type of like, so I don't know.
That's why I like spending some time, and sometimes I think people are like, well, why are we talking about his childhood? Why are we talking about like high school years? Because it makes it more relatable.
Yeah.
You realize that, like, yeah, we see you from afar as like, you're on the cover of maybe the magazine, maybe Forbes under 30, like you're so successful, but it's like, yo, he literally, like, maybe the city he grew up in is different. Maybe like your parents do different things, but like you still came from a childhood, you went to high school, you went to college, you dropped out. Like, it's, you are just another human being. Hopefully that they can hear it. It's like, wow, maybe that's where I can relate on this. I can relate here. I can relate there. Like, I think it's really important to really hear the full story instead of like, welcome to the podcast, let's talk about movement. Like, no. How did you even get to movement? Because as we heard today, there were 2 failures before you got to this third one, which is then the successful one. Yeah. But it's important. And the mental health too, I think, is extremely important. That I'm trying to talk about a lot more in my content and show people that I meditate, and that's constantly helping me on a daily basis to remind myself to keep pushing and stay positive and just breathe. Sometimes just like chill. Yeah. Like, just be present. Yeah. Just, you know, focus on what you have in front of you 100%. Today and not get too stressed out about everything. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received, and who was it from?
Best piece of advice I've ever received. I'm trying to think here, because I always go to one, which I'll start with one, which is probably Damon John actually gave us some really good advice from Shark Tank. Yep. When we first met him, we were still contemplating, like, you know, we did $1 million online. Like, we're thinking about, you know, there's some opportunities in wholesale, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, just stay online. Just don't sell to, like, it's, he didn't really give us a great reason why. He just kind of said it's easier, you make more money, stay online. And that was kind of it. And we're like, okay. And then went back to the hotel and like started reverse engineering all these online businesses like Warby Parker and all these other guys and realizing the benefits and actually more so like how big you could be online. And I didn't know that a business could be as big as like some of these businesses were talking. At the time, it said they raised money. It'd be like, oh, Warby Parker raised $60 million. I didn't even know what that meant. I was like, damn, if they raised $60 million, they must be doing at least $60 million, right? Yeah. Like, and so I learned a lot about it, but so that was like, I mean, pretty game changing advice. I don't know that we would have gone directly in wholesale, but it challenged. It was the first time someone challenged kind of like that side of it. Trying to think if there's anything more recent. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to think about it.
That's a good though.
I mean, it's for the business. I'm trying to think something on the personal side. Yeah. For the business, I think that was definitely like probably the most like impactful piece of advice that we probably ever.
The good thing about going online too is that you can obviously probably get to a point where you are doing everything from this laptop. So like say you had to fly to New Jersey tomorrow, you can still operate. Whereas if you were still running that storefront up at the mall, you're like, well, now I have to have employees. You know what I mean? Just as an example, like that's the benefit I feel like of online is you can shut the laptop. Emails are still going to keep coming in. Well, guess what? You can get to them when you need to get to them. Versus if somebody's calling you, it's like, well, shit, do I have to pick this up now or do I not have to pick it up?
I'd say the one other thing, which is just, pretty basic, but like something that as growing up, my dad and my uncle would tell me was just, whatever you do in a career, like make sure that you're making money while you sleep, right? Like make sure that you make money. And it always stuck with me. And I remember like, or even when I had Nitelife Designs in college, I would get emails of like orders, and I wake up in the morning and I'd already have sold $300 or $400 worth of stuff.
That's a good way to start the day.
And I'd be like, the feeling I got, I was like, yeah, it makes sense. I get it. Like, I don't want to just clock in this stuff. I want to have something that has like, income while something that's sustainable, that's working for me. That so I don't know. It was something that stuck with me, and I think when I thought about like career paths, like that was something that kind of like stuck with me to some degree. So, no, not to say that I was about to go do, I almost did real estate. So like, you're working for that type of stuff. So it's not really money in your sleep, and people make a shit. Granted, that could turn into investing in properties and having passive income, but so.
What's your definition of success?
My definition of success, I think that it's hard because again, it's relative. I think that what's successful today isn't necessarily what is success tomorrow. So I think you have to be fulfilled in what you do. I think, accomplishing goals. I don't really have a specific definition. It's a good question because like again, I set out to make $1 million and then I set out to make 10 and 20, and so it's like. And it always changes, right? So like what success is this year, I'd say is like, having concrete goals, holding yourself accountable to goals, and being fulfilled in the like with that and reaching the goals that you kind of set out to hit. It's probably goal setting more than anything. Like, success is saying you're going to do something and then doing it.
Yeah. I find that that's too like something that I find myself reminding myself of, like everything is relative. Like even though I want to see 10,000 views on a video, then I'm going to start getting 10,000, then I'm going to want 100,000. Yeah. And I think it was because I recently heard a podcast. Actually, it was Yes Theory on Drama's podcast recently, and they were talking about the early days. And when one, I don't know if it was Amar or Matt, but the one of them was like, yeah, man, it was like the day we were only getting 20,000 views. I'm sitting there like, I'd be pulling my hair out if I was getting 20,000 views. Yeah. But then I sit there and think, well, that's what happens when you grow, because then numbers get bigger and that becomes the old thing. Yeah. And
so here's like an interesting thought too that just came to me. It's like when you first started this, right? How long have you been doing this for now?
August 2016.
Okay, so 2016. If someone were to say that you were going to have drama on your podcast, right? Like would you consider that being successful?
100%.
Right? Okay, so you're successful, right? In your mind, you're successful, but like now you're like, I want 20,000 or I want this, right? So like success, but you are successful. So I think it's we're human always and chasing. Ambitious people that like that's how it is. But success is like setting out to do something and like saying you're going to do it and then accomplishing that.
Yeah.
That's success. You're successful. But now it's like, what else? What else do I want? Like, so you're just, ever changing, ever like growing and trying to like set out to do those things, which is good. I think that's why like as humans, why do we have billionaires still working? They're successful. They were successful when they made $100,000.
Yeah, you're right.
Right. But like,
they love the game.
Yeah. They love the game. So I think it's a combination of, so yeah, I don't know.
That's good. That's so true though. It's true. And I think that's good. It's like always having that hustle mentality of wanting to kind of achieve greater and to push yourself to keep going, because I think that's the entrepreneur, right? Yeah. That's the entrepreneur mindset, because if that's not the way you're thinking, then that's probably not the route you should go. You should probably do something that's not pushing you to that point. What do you believe Jake's purpose is?
I think that for the longest time I've had to focus solely on movement, and it's still my goal. I think I love when I think about what like the good that I'm doing on the world, it's the lives that I've touched more so and helped. I think one thing I'm really proud about with movement is like a lot of the people that work there weren't fulfilled or happy at their previous job, right? So I think like seeing how, or just we're in like a tough place in life. So I think seeing like what we've created and how much people like, and it's all relative. I think there's still things that now they want, they're like, they're living better, and they want more and more, which is great.
Yeah.
But like, I'm really proud of the fact that like all these people, when I look around, are either in a hard place or not happy, and I feel like they're really happy and fulfilled now, and on a good track, right?
Yeah.
Like, so we're setting their lives up for like to have a good life, at least in career, and even personally. I think it's helped their like personal mental state. I think that all the people that like I'm able to like share my story with and impact, like I've always said I want someone in 5 years from now to be like, to reach out to me and be like, yo, I heard you on such and such, or you DM'd me a piece of advice, and like it's because of you that like I made it to here, right? Those things are like really cool to me.
Yeah.
I think the mental health side of it is actually becoming more and more, because I'm starting to have friends or family or whoever that I'm seeing it affect, and I'm not seeing them. I'm a professional problem solver, right? So I figured out how to like get myself to a good place, but not everyone necessarily gets to that good place. And I see it really affect people's lives. And I, haven't had anything too drastic yet, fortunately, with anyone, but like, it's just not, it's something that I really want to make sure that I'm able to like impact and help people. And I think not enough people talk about mental health. And, and so in some ways, although I deal with it, and it's all like, today's a good day, but like, I'm going to have a bad day. I know I will. Like, and it's funny. Sometimes I'm like, fuck, life's good right now. And then like the next week, it's just like a bad week. And I'm like, it's just like so weird how that happens,
Yeah.
And everyone goes through it. No one really talks about it. So I don't know. It's something that like I'm building more of an interest in, and like trying to understand like, why is it so hard to get help from a doctor? Why are doctors just like medications, or like so there's like this whole other like world that I'm just kind of learning about now. So I don't know. I think helping other people, giving back. I think when I can see myself impact a life specifically, that's when I get most. That's when I feel the best. Like, it's not necessarily just donating money to like a big charity. It's like, changing a life specifically. So
I think you're doing that too, just through like podcasts, not to cut you off, but like doing that through storytelling and being willing to come here and tell this story, because that, I think, is the service is just sharing your knowledge and hopefully uplifting somebody that they might not even be interested in entrepreneurship, but the things that you're talking about, this is real life stuff. This is not cookie cutter. This is not like, hey, we're here today with Jake. Like, this is the real life shit. And I think opening up and being willing to have those conversations, I think that's the best thing that you can do, because somebody can tap in and listen and think, shit, maybe he is right about this.
Yeah, just being real, dude. I've never been a good liar. Yeah. And I'm not a good person. I'm not good at like what you see is what you get. Yeah. I'm just not good at faking anything, and it's why I don't know. It's just like it's who I am. Yeah. And it's how I was raised, and it's just in my DNA. So I think for that reason, like I'm glad that I can just be open, and I'm in a place now where I feel more comfortable than ever talking about it. Yeah. For the longest time, you're like, you're just like unsure of like, do I talk, like, what do I talk about? Is it a sign of weakness? Is it like, but like, that's the social norm almost that like was created about like the mental health side of it, or just like even just struggles that like any of us go through. Like, even being insecure about like, even today, or not today, but just even like who I am today, and like the success that, movement and I've had, like, there's still, levels of insecurity about what I'm doing, or like, it's like, it's normal to be like that and think about that, but, or doubt yourself sometimes. So it's not like we're human beings and that's just how it works. And, some people are super confident when they shouldn't be. And some people are insecure about things when they shouldn't be. Right. Like, so it goes both ways. And, so there's a challenge either way. And I almost like, I almost like I think my leadership style, or just like me in general, like I like the fact that like I don't really like say something unless I'm truly I believe it and I'm confident in it. Mm-hmm. So like when we make decisions on stuff, like sometimes I'm the quietest person in the room because we'll have a team of people and sometimes people have opinions or this, and I'm like sometimes quiet, you know, where you usually would want someone to be like, we're doing it this way. I'm quiet because like I'm just listening, and I'm trying to think and figure it out. So it's not always the best. Some teams need someone who's like a little bit more, has a stronger opinion.
Yeah.
I have a strong opinion on some things. And when I do, like, I voice it and I stick by it, but
you're not afraid to say, actually, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm like the first person to say, I don't know.
Wow.
What do you think? I have to think about this. So.
I think that takes a lot for somebody to actually do that, especially when you're running the company or you were the co-founder. Like, I think says a lot about you because you're not afraid to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
You're authentically you.
Yeah.
And I think that's when people can connect the
most
well with
ego. It's just not, I don't know. It's not, my parents, same way.
I was gonna say. I bet you it goes back to the parents.
Yeah, they're again, like they lived below their means, and I don't know. They would just give me shit if I acted like a douchebag too.
Smack you beside the head. Smack you beside the head.
Exactly.
Before I get into the closing questions, this is when I reverse the role. I allow my guests to ask me any one question.
Yeah.
It could be about something we talked about today, something you want to know about me. 2 rules. 1, can't be a question I directly asked you today. Actually, we'll just go with 1 rule. Yeah, that's the 1 rule. Can't be a question I asked you today.
Okay. I wanted to ask either. I kind of want to ask like a 2-part.
Go ahead. Fire it up.
Will. It's so I want to know personal aside, like remove all this. Personally, where do you want to be when you're 30 years old? You're 24 right now?
24.
Almost 25.
I'll be 25 next
week. So either 30 on the personal level, and then kind of aside, and maybe this is like an answer within it, but like, what makes you happy?
Yeah. So.
And before you even answer that, I'll give you a second, but like that, what makes you happy thing is like, has been such a, I don't know, it's such a hard, I'm like been looking for books on like happiness. Because doesn't that seem simple? It's like,
what makes you happy?
What do you live, like, pursuit of happiness? Like
experiences. That's what makes me happy.
Good, yeah.
Experiences. It's not things. It used to be things when I was in high school. It used to be, there's not a flex. There's another story behind it for another day, but me and my buddy were up for best all around for like class repetitive. And I was also up for best dress, so I got best dress while he got the best all around because everybody felt bad. They didn't want me to get both. So it's funny because you look back and you're like, well, if somebody that got best dress, he probably valued things and wearing. And I did value like wearing the cool things because I didn't have anything else to worry about. But I've so much realized it is about experiences now. Like that is where I find the most value. Going to events, going to networking things. Last week, Como had a music video shoot. No brainer. I'll go. Anything that's like kind of, I don't know exactly what I'm getting myself into, but it could be a good moment and something I could look back on. That's the happiness for me. It's traveling, music, dinner with friends, meeting new people. That to me is the happiness. If I can live a life where I'm traveling to new countries, I'm getting to do the things that I've always wanted to do with the people I want to be around. I can treat my family right and like take them places that they've never been. Like that would be the ultimate happiness. The at 30, I'm not as I was saying, I think before we started this podcast, I'm not like emotionally like this has got to be it. Purpose in the youth. This is my career path. This has just been the door opener to this world that I'm now stepping in, this whole content creator world, this whole like kind of just having confidence in myself and being willing to be authentically me, putting content out there and just like hoping that it resonates with people. And it is, I guess, not knowing if it's podcasting, not knowing if it gets maybe acting, not knowing if it's radio. I would love to see me continue to be who I am, doing it for the right reasons, being a good person at 30. And whatever that might be, I'm okay with that. Just like always, like no ego, fully confident in myself, like inspiring people, keeping myself surrounded with passionate people, and just making content, like really stuff that impacts people, but that I get a kick out of. Like I love, like to me, this is like, I found like the dream job.
Yeah.
Like if I could get paid to just have conversations with people, whatever it might be. I mean, I'm a people's person. This is me. Like I love talking to people. I love listening. This is the dream job. So at 30, wherever that's going to take me, as long as I always stay true to who I am, I don't forget where I came from. Like where I grew up in Massachusetts, it very much sounded similar to where you were raised. Unfortunately, we had snow. You didn't. But like, just never forgetting that, remembering why I started all this, and always still kind of remembering that 22-year-old version of me, because nobody will really ever understand. I wasn't like depressed, or I wasn't like life-threatening. Everything was fine, but mentally, I was like the day I graduated, like was getting my diploma, I was super excited, but I was also so nervous. Like I don't know what to do next. I got an email 6 months out after graduating college. Congrats to the class of 2016. 99% of you are enrolled in a full-time career. And I was part of that 1%. And I'm sitting there just having started a podcast, like kind of being told by my school without directly saying it, like, hey, you need to figure it out.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I don't know. The happiness, like I said, just experiences for sure. And then me at 30, just doing exactly kind of what I'm doing now, just on another level. Maybe have a Netflix series, HBO, and always being in control of my time. That's where I find a lot of value and happiness too. Is I'll get things done, but I don't want to be told when and where.
That's an interesting thing.
I want to be in control. I like knowing that I can be here at 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and yeah, I'll go work the rest of the night. But I know that I can do this right now. Yeah. I'm in complete control of that.
That's interesting, because that's something that I've almost, not that I've lost it a bit. You know, like I have other people work like. I can do what I want, but I have people that rely on me.
Yeah.
So, you know, and that is that anxiety where it's like, I don't want to let people down. I want to, you know, be there and help people. And so it's weird. It's like, there's just a balance.
You are your own boss, but there's also times where you have to show up.
Yeah. It's just like when you get to a certain scale, it's kind of like, you know, I don't know, like if you're not going to work hard, why should anyone else work hard?
Yeah.
You know, sure, you're paying them, but like, so they can do the job without putting in the extra effort, and that's going to get you nowhere. So I don't know, it's interesting. But I think that's a good, that's why I think like being in control of your like time. Well, yeah, I mean, you can still dedicate time and be in control of it to a degree, and then, you know, take the vacation, or like, you know, like I get into the office later now than, I did when I first started. You know, like I'll go do this boxing class at 8:30 a.m., get in by, you know, 10.
It's perfect.
So it's like, okay, sure. Like,
perfect.
But like that allows me to like have stability. But the happiness thing is good, dude. I think that's something that you like. What else does everyone live for, right? Like if nothing else, just they all want to be happy. Yet it's like the struggle that everyone I feel like has. Like you're not, and happiness, Jim Carrey said this, happiness is like the weather, right? Like it's ever changing. You're not always happy. And so like it was interesting, because it's like you strive for this, like this word or this emotion, but it's kind of hard to be, I don't know, like you have ups and downs. Like there's always something that can make you happier, but like really thinking about, you know, like, no material thing. No. Like I think what it comes down to is it's relationships, like with people, whether it's friends or, you know, a significant other, and sharing experiences with those people. And like, cause like when you just build like this relationship with someone that you can be like yourself and be vulnerable with telling them things, whether it's again, like, you know, friends or relationships, like I think that's super unique. I think having a purpose, whether it's career or even just like, it could be career or it could just be anything else, you know, like just having a purpose for what, like you need to have a purpose and be fulfilled, a reason to wake up and go and do something. So I don't know. I think it's like, those are all things, but it's something that I kind of like set out to like figure out and like explore, because I'm happier now than I think I was when like I didn't have any hobbies or like wasn't. But I think when I sold the company, I was like, I'm not necessarily happy. And not that like, basically what happened was like I had the money I wanted.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, well, I'm still living in, like, I don't need to go, I'm not going to go buy a house.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm a big house. Like, I'm 27 years old. I'm single. I don't need a big house.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not realistic. Well, I have a nice car. I've been leasing it for a while now, that Mercedes. Like, I don't need to go buy a car. Like, that's not going to change my life or make me happy. I'm helping my parents retire in the next couple of years. So helping them, like, you know, buy a house somewhere, but it made me happy. But that's for them. Like, that was a goal, right? It's not, it makes me fulfill, but so it's just like, but on a day-to-day basis, more so, what makes you happy? So I think it's a good question to ask yourself as you're doing things, or when you're in a career. Like, I'm one of the guys, and I think you are too, where like, we can't be unhappy for long periods of times. Otherwise you'll change it. Right. Mm-hmm. It's very simple for us. It's like, are you happy? No, then do something about it. Right. Yeah. And if you're going down a path that like,
it's not working,
you get to the same answer, we're flipping it on its head and we're out. Right. Yeah. So like, but some people, and honestly, some people can be happy and, you know, like some people can be happy and working and have, you know, the repetitive, like day to day, you know, maybe they're just, they enjoy having stability so that they can be happy with their family on the certain times. Like, that's fine. I think it's a good question, a good exercise to kind of go through.
Yeah, and I think going off of like the material things, one thing that I've kind of told myself, and I always talk to people, it's like on a small scale, think of it like this: when you're younger, you want that pair of shoes, you do anything for it, right? You do anything for that pair of shoes, you get it, and then a couple of days later, you want the next thing. Yeah. So it's like it's the same thing I would imagine when it comes to cars or, you know, some big items, things like the day you buy, I'm sure the day you got paid from this whole Movado thing, you were just like crazy, sick, awesome. Woo, this is awesome. And then a week later, it's like, okay.
Dude, that's the thing is it wasn't even crazy. It was like money's in my account. And like, okay, cool. I got that. All right, I'm going to the gym. I'm going to go home, watch Netflix. Like, nothing changed. You know what I mean? Like, so
that's good. That's a good sign then.
Yeah.
That means that you like know what you need to do.
Yeah. And there's nothing right. And again, I think like if you can buy things for experiences, I think that's always good, right? Like, I think, like go like a vacation is just it could be a more expensive experience, right? Mm-hmm. Or like going out to a nice dinner, you know, sushi that you've never been to, or like going and, you know, like Nobu or something, like to celebrate. Like, those are experiences, right? Like, the scene there may be like a little not so great, but the whole dining experience is an experience, right? Yeah. So I don't know, there's like all these, it's just been interesting to like think about, and like I don't know, I think for everyone to kind of like
good conversation to have with yourself. Yeah. Like what's the true happiness? What's making me happy? Where can people find you on me personally? Obviously, where can they find Movement? They are a rock and they've heard of Movement.
So you can find me on Instagram. It's probably the most used, fortunately or unfortunately. It's just Jake Kassan, Jekassan. I also have a website, which I haven't really updated in a while, but if you want to email me, I do check that, which is website's just jakekassan.com. And then Movement is mvmt.com, and we have all of our social handles are MVMT as well. Yeah. Before
I ask the last question, man, sincerely, thank you for coming in today.
100%,
this
man.
Is
what guest is my number?
You'll be 113. Honestly, I think you're gonna be the last guest of 2018, which is
I'm honored.
A huge, like, let's flip to the next chapter. Because as I think I was saying before we even started this up, like, 22 for me was a year of finding myself. 23, I started to really gain some confidence and kind of putting myself out there to the world. 24, I fucking crushed it. I like hit the bag hard. But 25, it's like, I feel like this is everything that I've been preparing for.
Yeah.
I've been putting in the groundwork for long enough that it's time to start seeing the fruits of the labor. And I'm not saying like I deserve it, but I know that it's like things are starting to fall into place in the right time.
Yeah.
And I could not be happier to end like 2018 / my turning 25 on this podcast. No, because this means a lot to me. This means a lot to a lot of the followers and people that are watching my content. It's been amazing just to watch your guys' journey from afar. Shout out to Blake for connecting us. I literally think he texted me randomly. We were just talking about something. This is months ago. He's like, I'll never forget it. He texted me. He's like, yo, 2 guys I think you'd be really good for your podcast would be Steve Borelli of Cuts and Jake, obviously, of Movement. And I was actually in the process of already booking,
Brandon?
Brandon, excuse me. I'm screwing up. Steven.
Yeah.
And when I saw the second name, I was like, red lights, gladly. Could you possibly connect me with Jake? That would be so much appreciated. I'm like jumping in my car, and then not even like 5 hours later, I was literally driving Uber. Won't forget it. I see Blake with another number attached. I'm like, there's no way he's already setting me up in the same day. And then there it is. Yo, Bob, this is Jake. This is Bob. I'm like, all right, I gotta let this marinate for a little bit. Don't respond immediately. Don't look
hard to get.
Don't jump the gun yet. And it's been an honor, man. It's been incredible.
No, I appreciate it, man.
And I appreciate you just opening up too and just
I
telling
love
how
what
it
you're
is.
doing. I love what you're doing here, dude. Like, you're the real deal, and I love supporting people who are, following their dreams. And I think it's called the snowball effect, right? Like, you start rolling down that mountain, it gets bigger and bigger, and it's just the way it works, dude. Like, good energy, good people, good. I truly believe good things happen to good people. So, and just seeing like the pictures, I think like it's such a great reminder. Like, be good to have like some goal people, right? Like, just get some pictures and just kind of be like,
pre-print their pictures already.
Like, that's law of attraction right there.
Yeah, no.
You have a wall of like guests to be, right? Like, it's like that's the goal, and then you'll start.
I'll pull from that wall. Oh, that's
dude,
so badass.
It's kind of like, I mean, dude, that's have you heard like the Jim Carrey, like when he so first off, Will Smith, Jim Carrey, Oprah, they're all The Secret, Law of Attraction. Like, they're all about it. Like, almost every...
I definitely agree with it. 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
It's huge. And sometimes it gets a little too, like, fugazi. Yeah. But the concept... My concept around it is, like, if you want something bad enough, you will make subconscious decisions. Your brain will... Everyone gets... opportunities all day, and it's people, and it's just taking action on that, or like making a subconscious decision to go. I don't know how you got connected with Blake, but like however that happened, like subconscious to like
something led to that.
But anyway, Jim Carrey, like, and then you start looking back, and you're kind of like, whoa, holy shit, that's kind of weird. So like I remember I always said I wanted to make $1 million by the time I was 25. Like I remember saying that when I was like 18, 17. I made a bet with this kid when I was in. Or not a bet, I made a promise that non-contractual, but it was in like 3rd grade. No, it was 4th grade, and I remember his name was Michael, and we were like, he wanted to be a comedian, I wanted to make $1 million, like doing a business or something. I don't remember how I knew, but and I was like, let's make a deal. Whoever makes $1 million first, whoever becomes a millionaire first, gives the other person $1 million. That way, we're both set, no matter what. But like, and I remember these times, and I'm like, fuck, man, like it's crazy to think like where my mind was. I was, 10 years old then, maybe 4th grade. I don't know.
You're already thinking about it.
I don't know.
Already instilled in you, man.
It's kind of weird, but like, so anyways, law of attraction, like always believing in that stuff, and it was early on. But anyways, going back to Jim Carrey story. Jim Carrey wrote a $10 million check when he started acting. He wrote a $10 million check, put it in his wallet, and like he did like Dumb and Dumber, and then he did I think he did Dumb and Dumber or something, and they paid him like $10 million for that movie. In the year that he like signed it or whatever. And it's just like, and you know what? Those stories happen so much, which is just like, listen, if it doesn't work, who fucking cares? Like, believe it, right? Like, I used to sit in my car and like imagine driving like the BMW I wanted, and then like fast forward, I had the BMW I wanted, right? Like, I just believe in that stuff, and it's not like wishful thinking so much. It's just like
you live it.
You just like every single day, you like your mind is like envisioning where you want to be.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, like you're not wasting it. Like you're not spending money or anything. It's just like a mentality. Like
you have something you're working towards.
Yeah. And honestly, you have people like me and not to put me and Will Smith and those guys on the same spectrum, but like you have successful people who believe this too. Like, I don't know. It's good energy.
See that white piece of paper?
Yeah.
That's $1 million check.
There you go.
That I wrote almost 2 years ago. I gave myself 5 years to cash it for $1 million for chasing my dreams.
Love it.
Yep. So it'll be 26 by the time I cash it. But that was it, and that's the thing. It's not about the money. That's why I said for chasing your dreams, because it has to be for whether it's this or whether it's something that I actually like love to do.
Yeah.
And on top of that too, the photos coming in right now. I believe in that too. The visualization, like putting things, like seeing it. I got a response of a DM from Lewis Howes, which was by far the person that inspired me to start a podcast. And I had a very brief conversation with him. Pretty much tried pitching him to get on the podcast. He very politely didn't say yes or no, but he just said, love this, congrats, love it, keep going. So I printed that picture. It's in the mail, and I have a frame that's in my closet that I'm going to put up like pretty much right next to there and visually see it. Like, I got recognition from the guy that inspired me to start a podcast. Yeah. It's only a matter of time. I'm going to make sure I leave room on that frame for him to sign it for the day that he comes here and does it. Because I believe it. Like, you see it, you believe it. Yeah. It's a matter of time, and you just know that I know what I want. I know it's going to happen. 100%. We're just going to make the right steps to get there 100%. To it and make it happen. Yeah. Last question for you. What's the best 2 to 3 pieces of advice you'd give to somebody that's listening, hasn't found that passion, hasn't found that purpose just yet, is in the pursuit of trying to figure it out? What's the best 2 to 3 things you'd say they do?
I mean, it's interesting, man. I feel like podcasts like this, who have a diverse group of people, is where I'd start, certainly. Yeah. Hear the story, hear what people do, and there's got to be something that clicks. I mean, I think, for me, I was in a place where, like, I knew I wanted to be successful. I wanted, like, to live the life I wanted. I wanted to, like, my own schedule. I wanted to have financial freedom. I knew the life I wanted. I had the vision board. I just didn't know how to get there. So I had to think about being an entrepreneur, you dictate what you want to do, right? Like, you got to find, it's kind of the most, and like, you're an entrepreneur, like, doing this is all like, it's just different forms. So I feel like listening to the different avenues or different channels to, like, industries to get into is, like, a good way to find something that clicks. And then honestly, you can go intern places and see what it feels like. A lot of people who want to do stuff in, like, the movie industry, get in the movie industry and don't love, whether it's the politics or this or that. Like, and every industry has politics, or, from the outside it looks fun, but when you come in internal, it's not. Even with movement, it's like, we work with people who travel the world and do really cool stuff, but, like, we work in an office, right? Like, we try and, like, live the lifestyle as much as possible, but if you want to go live like, Sam Colder made a decision not to work for anyone else and to go and travel around the world, and, like, took a chance and, like, made it. There's a lot of people who are, like, trying to be Sam Colder and do it who aren't to his level. So there's, like, you just have to, like, think about what you want to do and go for it. But I don't know. I think if I was starting from scratch and literally had zero idea, and even if, like, maybe money wasn't even an issue, I just wanted to be passionate about something. Yeah. I think podcasts like this are great. Anytime that people are interviewing, like, successful people in different industries, Gerard Adams does, like, a good video series too. Yep. Like, just anyone that you can just learn about the stories of people and go, oh, that sounds, like, really cool. Like, and then you find a spark. And if you still don't find a spark, then, I don't know. I'd have to better understand your psyche and, like, what you're, like, what motivates you. Yeah. For me, what motivated me is living that life. I wanted to live the life. I always hated how people said, college are the best years of your life.
Oh, I know.
You know what I mean?
I know.
It's like, well, I got a lot of life to live.
Oh, I know.
I got a lot of life to live. Why would I ever... I'm not cool with that.
Yeah.
Like, I look forward to the rest of my life. Now, life certainly gets harder, and getting old is not fun or great, and you have to deal with shit, but I want to make sure that I live the life I want, and and that was always, like, part of it. It was like financial freedom, yes, but, like, at the end of the day, I just wanted to make sure that really happiness. What makes you happy? Maybe start there. Yeah. Because that's the heart that, and, like, and if what makes you happy is, the little things, whatever it is, like, then you can figure out a career that revolves around that. If you have kind of bigger aspirations in terms of what makes you happy, going on, really nice vacations with your family, living in the dream house that you want, if, with your family, whatever it is, living in Los Angeles. Yeah. If you want to live in Los Angeles, it's expensive, right? If you're down to go live anywhere in the United States and, and focus on something like that, which that's totally fine. Some people, like, just want to be simple. And it's funny, not to keep going off of different tantrums, but, like, I also read this thing where, like, there was some like someone did a study, or maybe this was just a story, maybe it wasn't even a study, but I think I'm gonna for the sake of the story, it was a study, and it was talking about like people who lived in like third world countries who, you know, had no shoes and like were, you know, getting paid very little, but like had to work every single day, and like they'd have to like carry like heavy loads of like, you know, whatever it was, like they were like food back and forth for the job they were working, right? No shoes, bad weather, they'd have to do it in the rain, whatever. But like they did that job and they'd go home and they'd spend the time with their family. And then they like studied him for how happy he was, right? Mm-hmm. And then they studied people back in like, you know, Los Angeles or New York who were successful, making money, but like working so much and blah, blah, blah. And someone who had like a more simple life was actually tended to be happier than, or even or close to the same spectrum even, right? Than someone who's busting their ass and trying to like, you know, so it's just like it, you know, money and all these things don't necessarily dictate happiness. I think you just need to be either fulfilled with what you're doing, or you need to like think about what it is that truly makes you happy. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Jake Kassan.
All right, brother.
Thank you for coming in, man.
Definitely.
Absolute pleasure. We'll catch you guys next time. See ya.